So hey guys, this is your favorite fictional vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto had the blood of the Goku Saiyans. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. Son Goku ran as fast as his legs could carry him with the 100 kilograms rock tied to his back. The 13-year-old martial artist wished the Chi Master Roshi hadn't banned him from using Kintoon for the next 3 years. However, Goku had to admit that Master Roshi knew what he was talking about when he said it was good training. The monkey-tailed boy could already feel his power growing and figured that he'd have to find a bigger boulder when he got home. Goku stopped in his tracks when he thought of home. It had been over a year since he had left the mountain house he had lived in all his life before meeting Bulma. Life had been fun ever since he had met Bulma and he started going on his adventures. However, a part of Goku missed the old familiar mountains and valleys that he grew up in. Since he had 3 years before the next tournament, Goku figured it would be alright if he went back to Grandpa Gohan's house and train at home for a while. Goku had it all planned out. He'd spend a year at home just building up his abilities like Master Roshi had trained him, and then the remaining 2 years would be spent gathering that life experience, stuff that he needed to get. Just going back home was good training for Goku. Baba's palace was on the other side of the continent from his house, so it was a long run home. Still, Goku thought he was making good time since it had only taken him a month to traverse the continent with the occasional stop to help someone out. He could already recognize his surroundings as the outermost Chi area he had ventured away from home before meeting Bulma. A bigger smile than usual appeared on Goku's as he realized that home was only an hour away at most. 40 minutes later, Goku came in sight of his old house. A small frown appeared on Goku's face when he saw all the weeds growing in his old vegetable garden and the vines clinging to the walls of the house. Seconds later, Goku shrugged his shoulders and said, "Oh well, I guess the plants grew even without me around. Might as well get started fixing this place up." Goku became a whirlwind of activity as he started to take care of the neglect. The first thing he took care of was the garden by quickly removing all the weeds and watering the vegetables that had grown from the plants he had planted last year. With the garden in order, Goku moved on to repairing the house. Many of the boards for the house needed to be replaced, but that wasn't much of a problem for Goku. All of that construction work came in real handy when it came to fixing everything up. He even got to practice his martial arts with chopping down trees and making new boards. Goku had his typical grin on as he hauled the planks of wood from the forest to rebuild his house. Something caught Goku's eyes as he was putting the planks up on the west side of his house. He stopped what he was doing and started walking towards the object. As Goku neared the object, he realized that it was a book binding. Goku quickly grabbed the book and pulled it out of its cubby hole, which happened to be near where Grandpa Gohan used to set up his futon. This wasn't something that Goku was expecting to find. He thought that he had everything that his grandpa had left behind when he died. Goku folded his arms together and thought about it for a second and then decided that he must not have found the book since he hadn't needed to repair this section of the house before. With childlike curiosity, Goku sat down and began reading the book he had found. It turned out the book was his grandpa's diary. Goku smiled as he read his grandpa's thoughts, and he could practically hear his voice talking to him again. Most of the entries were brief, with Grandpa talking about his daily meditation and training. Goku paid special attention to the training outlined in the diary so he could apply it to his own training. About a third of the way through the diary, Goku came across an unusually long passage. "While meditating at my favorite waterfall today, I spotted a falling star land nearby in the valley on the other side of the mountain I look at while meditating. I've never seen an actual meteorite before and I decided to investigate this one. The crater of this meteorite is very large. I estimate it to be about 600 meters wide and 100 meters deep. To my surprise, there wasn't a meteor in the crater. Instead, I found a metal sphere that was in the center of the crater. The sphere opened up as I approached it to reveal a little baby sleeping in a chair. It's quite remarkable, but the little lad actually has a tail like a monkey. I don't know who the lad is, or why he was in what I can only assume is some kind of spaceship. However, I'm not about to leave the little fella alone out here in the woods. Whoever put the boy in that thing should be ashamed of themselves for doing such a thing to a baby. Don't they realize that a predator could attack him? I don't know who the boy is or where he's from, but I can't leave him alone out here, so I plan to raise him as my own. I think that Goku would be a good name for the lad. For the first time in his life, Goku felt like he had a heart attack. Grandpa always said that he had found him in the woods, but he had never mentioned anything about finding him in a spaceship. Goku might be naive, but he wasn't stupid like some people thought. Bulma had mentioned offhandedly that her father was working on a new spaceship to get to the moon, and it was the most advanced on the planet. That meant that he wasn't around here since his grandpa's diary if it was true that he was found in a spaceship. Nervously and anxiously desiring answers, Goku hurriedly continued reading through Grandpa Gohan's diary, growling more shocked and horrified with each entry. As far back as Goku could remember, he and Grandpa had gotten along fabulously and always had fun. But Grandpa's diary talked about him constantly attacking Grandpa. The viciousness which Grandpa described Goku's baby self made him sound like a wild animal. However, even during the entries where Goku was at his worst, Grandpa spoke about how he was sure Goku would one day be a good boy. Eventually, Goku reached the entry speaking about how he had fallen into a deep ravine and almost died. Goku was thrilled when the entries afterwards spoke about him being a good and kind boy. That sounded more like his times with Grandpa that he remembered. However, Goku's happiness came crashing down when he got to an entry that talked about a night when he had seen the full moon. No, Goku whispered hoarsely as he read about Grandpa Gohan watching him turn into a giant ape. This can't be correct. It's got to be a lie. There was no way that what he had just read was true. The book just couldn't really be his grandpa's journal. It had to be a cruel joke of some sort. Maybe Krillin had somehow come here before him, planted the book as a prank. Even Goku's mind found that idea rather unbelievable, but his heart didn't want to accept the truth revealed in Gohan's journal. This can't be true and I'm going to prove it. Goku's face became uncommonly serious as he jumped to his feet and started running towards the setting sun. It was all so simple to Goku. The book couldn't be true, and the best way to prove it was to see that there was no spaceship. If there was no spaceship, then he couldn't transform into a monster because Grandpa wouldn't lie, and there not being a spaceship where Grandpa supposedly said there was one clearly was a lie. Ergo, book was a joke because it was lying, and whereas Grandpa never lied. Goku knew which waterfall was being talked about in his supposed Grandpa's diary. Grandpa used to always take him to the water all to practice meditating, even though he usually just played in the stream that flowed from the waterfall. The young monkey boy raced towards the mountain and stopped for a second when he neared the pass to go behind the mountain. Grandpa had left strict instructions to Goku that he was never to enter that valley. Goku didn't want to disobey his grandpa, but he headed down into the valley thinking that it was okay just this once to prove that someone was trying to hurt Grandpa's good name. Storm clouds were forming on the horizon as Goku entered the valley, cutting off the remaining sunlight. Goku paused for a second, grabbed a fallen tree branch, and used a tiny Kamehameha wave to set the branch on fire. He quickly picked up his makeshift torch and continued on his journey. A few minutes later, the monkey-tailed boy came across a large crater. Grass was growing in the crater, showing that it had been there for some time. But the crater was still fairly new since it was easy to see the crater's shape. Goku nervously gulped and shivered in fear. Maybe a falling star did land here, and whoever put that book there's trying to hide their lies with some truth. Yeah, that's it. This is the deception stuff Master Roshi was talking about in his tactics class. Well, I'm not going to fall for it. Regaining his courage, Goku jumped into the crater and ran towards its center. All he had to do was run in a straight line and leave the crater without finding a spaceship. That would prove that the book was lying once and for all. Because of the darkness, Goku couldn't run as fast as he normally could. However, that didn't stop him from reaching the center of the crater and stopping in his tracks when the firelight reflected off of the space pod. No, Goku quietly whispered as he looked at his damning space pod. If the pod was real, then that book he had found wasn't lying. If the book wasn't lying, that meant that it really was his grandfather's diary. If it was Grandpa Gohan's diary, then that meant that Grandpa I'm sorry. Goku fell to his knees and started crying just as the rain began to fall. Through the tears Goku sobbed, I'm so sorry Grandpa. How did you forgive me? Gee, Ivan, the emotional roller coaster Goku had been put through, it wasn't a big surprise that he fell asleep by his space pod. However, fate wasn't done putting the teenage Saiyan through the ringer just yet. The sensors on Goku's space pod had detected Goku's presence ever since he had entered the crater. Old subroutines in the ship's computer started to boot up again, causing the spacepod to open. Inside the spaceship on its seat was Goku's old incubator unit. The unit quickly tapped into the ship's sensors to double-check that Goku was asleep. Once this was verified, 3 slender cables snaked out of the pod and headed towards Goku's forehead. Ever so gently, the cables attached themselves to Goku's forehead. Say what you will about the Saiyans, but one cannot deny their ability to plan ahe. Add when it comes to anything related to battle. Sending babies like Kakarot to non-threatening planets like Earth was simply using the appropriate level of force for the situation at hand. Saiyans' natural abilities and the very basic training Kakarot had implanted into his brain on the journey to Earth would ensure that a baby Saiyan could survive against local animals. With the Uzaru transfer machine that the spacepod could trigger at any time, it was expected that Kakarot would be reasonably safe for his first initial years of growth before he was strong enough to start on his mission. Of course, there was a problem with sending babies off into space to wipe out indigenous races. How do you make the Brats civilized and responsible citizens, even if it's just by Saiyan standards? Even the most advanced technology in the galaxy couldn't allow someone to put everything a person needed to know into a baby's brain. Not even a Saiyan could handle that kind of mental strain. Now, the Saiyans weren't about to waste a bunch of time and energy educating their kids when they could be doing more important things like fighting or eating. So to deal with this situation they developed a way to directly download the basic information any soldier needed into their field agents. All that needed to be done was waiting for the child in question to get old enough so that their brain could handle the strain. Goku had forgotten the basic training that had been instilled into Kakarot before he left Vegeta. However, that didn't mean much to his incubator unit. It could pump the Saiyan's language and everything else Goku needed to know by Saiyan standards even if he didn't remember his mission. All through the night, Goku learned about Saiyan history, basic math which Bulma had just finished learning herself. Several basic fighting support techniques like how to fly, and finally how to repair his field equipment. After all, it just wouldn't do to have an agent get himself killed. Because he didn't know how to operate a scouter or had to be picked up because his ship was damaged. Goku pulled himself into a fetal position near his pod as soon as he woke up. Then next morning, tears were threatening to fall from the young Saiyan's eyes as he tried to come to grips with everything he had learned. This wasn't supposed to happen. All Goku wanted was to return home so he trained for a bit. He didn't want to discover that he was an alien from a nasty and cruel race. The images that kept on appearing in his mind reminded the young teenager of the Red Ribbon Army, only his people were like 1,000 times worse. Part of Goku was furious at the Saiyans. They wanted him to kill people. It wasn't that hard for him to figure out why he had been sent to Earth. The information down low hadn't hidden his people's main export since it was a legitimate business. How could the Saiyans want him to kill people like Bulma, or Krillin, or Launch? Why would anyone want to hurt someone? Sure, people got hurt fighting in tournaments and such, but no one died and it was all in good fun. Slowly, ever so slowly, Goku forced himself to stand and his face filled with determination. He looked at the sky and screamed out at the top of his lungs. Do you hear me, you meanie Saiyans? My name's Son Goku and I refuse to do whatever nasty things you were hoping I'd do when you sent me here. Goku took a deep breath and made a fist with his right hand. I swear on my grandpa Gohan's memory that I'll protect everyone I can from nasty people like the Saiyans. His mind made up, Goku walked towards his space pod. Goku folded the seat down, revealing a set of armor in the same style of his father's armor that had been prepared for him. For a second, Goku considered leaving the armor in the pod, as he really didn't want another connection to his race. But in the end Goku grabbed it since it might be useful in the future. Next, Goku pushed the chair back into its proper position and then he popped the seat of the chair up to reveal a small briefcase-like box. A quick check of the box revealed that it had the scouter and the repair tools like it should. With the armor and the supply box in his hands, Goku ran from the pod as fast as his legs could carry him. If he never saw that spacebot again, it would be way too soon. The young Saiyan quickly crossed the distance between the accursed valley and his halfway rebuilt home. As soon as Goku got home, he set his items on the floor and walked over to his grandfather's shrine. Goku reverently knelt down in front of the shrine and began to pray for guidance. He wanted to protect people from bad guys, but how was he to do this without becoming a bad guy like the other Saiyans? Slowly, Goku's mind began to drift over his time facing off against the Red Ribbon Army. Many of the soldiers had been willing to be good guys after he beat them, and only a few were determined to keep on harming people. Maybe that was the key. Yes, that's what Grandpa did with him, and look at him now. He wasn't like those Saiyans that the pod had showed him. Thank you for showing me what to do, Grandpa. 3 years later, Son Goku calmly walked down the streets of Papaya Town on Papaya Island, where the Tenkaichi Budokai was going to be held shortly. He calmly ignored the stares that many of the people on the streets were sending him. Having the run-up from the last tournament walking to the stadium wasn't odd to both the town regulars and the sports enthusiasts. The fact that the runner-up had been only 12 and nearly won the tournament was another thing entirely. The 15-year-old Saiyan walked up to the registration office and gave the monk a friendly smile. "Hi there, can I sign up for the tournament now?" The monk blinked his eyes for a second and glanced at Goku. A big smile appeared on the monk's face when he recognized Goku. "Good to see you again, Son Goku. Are you here to try and win the tournament this time?" A grin appeared on Goku's face. Yep. Once the attendant put Goku's name on the list, the young Saiyan walked a few feet away and sat down to meditate. Goku was trying to sense the key signals of his friends like Grandpa mentioned in his journals. The problem for Goku wasn't sensing ki, it was trying to separate a single person's ki from the key signal of everyone else. The scouter in Goku's storage capsule could lock onto his friends easily. But Goku didn't want to solely rely on it. Goku's face scrunched up as he noticed a brighter and more distinct ki blob to his senses. Whoever it belonged to was definitely stronger than most of the martial artists here. Who could it be? Krillin and Yamcha were supposed to be training together and should likely arrive at the same time. Could it be Jackie Chun? Why did the blob seem to be moving closer to him? An ecstatic cry of joy shocked Goku out of his meditation. "Oh Goku, you're here." Before Goku could even open his eyes, he was tackled to the ground. The young Saiyan opened his eyes to see an ecstatic girl hugging him. The girl smiled at her captive and cheerfully chirped, "I knew I'd find you again if I joined the Tenkaichi Budokai, but I wasn't expecting to find you so soon. Still, I'm not about to complain about this bit of good luck." A deep rumbling and yet joyful voice called out, "Give Goku a chance to collect his wits, Chi-Chi." People started scurrying away from the area as the feared Ox King walked towards the two teens. If the poor boy received an even more joyful greeting from you, he'd probably be put into a coma. The Ox King's antics Avenue Goku enough time to gather his wits and remember both the Ox King and Princess Chi-Chi. Goku then gave out a yet-to-be-patented sun grin. "Hi Chi-Chi, Ox King, are you two entering the tournament too?" Chi-Chi had now gotten off of Goku and was now blushing slightly as she nodded her head. "Father is not entering, but I am. Father's been giving me some extra heavy training for the past 2 years so I could enter the tournament. According to him, my training has actually been tougher than what the turtle Hermit put you through for the last tournament." Suddenly another voice joined the conversation. "Well now, I suppose it's a good thing when the student surpasses the teacher. That must be doubly true if it's because the student became a teacher themselves." Goku, Chi-Chi, and the Ox King turned to see Master Roshi, Yamcha, Krillin, and the rest of the gang approaching. Everyone quickly exchanged greetings and stayed chatting for a few minutes about the training they had undergone over the past few years. After Yamcha, Krillin, and secretly Roshi had signed up, Goku left to go get something to eat and Chi-Chi went with him. The preliminaries were a breeze for Goku. In fact, the only person in his block that was a serious threat was King Chappa. After winning his spot in the main tournament, Goku looked around to see how his friends were doing. Chi-Chi had just finished her block. Jackie Chun was talking with the monks since he was the first to secure his block, and both Krillin and Yamcha were finishing their matches. Goku got off of the preliminary stage and looked to see who had won in the final 3 blocks. Tien, Shinhan and Chiaotzu were both finishing up their matches. Goku couldn't wait to face off against them since he could feel that they were strong. Goku's eyes narrowed as he sensed a dark presence in room. His budding key senses caused Goku to stare at the final qualifying ring. No way, he's supposed to be dead. Defying everything that Goku had hoped for, Mercenary Tao was standing in the tournament ring having just ruthlessly dispatched his last opponent. Mercenary Tao turned to look at Goku and gave the Saiyan a nasty grin. As soon as the referee announced his victory, the now cybernetic assassin hopped off the preliminary ring and walked towards Goku. Well, if it isn't the annoying little monkey who had to blemish my perfect record. Tao leaned in closer to Goku and his voice dripped of viciousness. You left me in a pathetic condition after our last fight and I nearly died because of you. I fully intend to repay you for that inconvenience. However, unlike me, you won't have the luck of having several billion zeni on hand to restore yourself. To Tao's surprise, Goku returned his glare with equal ferocity. I'll say his only once Tao. You've got one chance left. If you play by the tournament rules and fight with honor, I won't hold your past against you. However, if you continue your previous ways, I'll destroy you. Don't make me laugh, Goku. It was only by pure luck that you were able to deflect that grenade back at me. Kami doesn't bestow such fortune on fools twice in their lifetimes. With that said, Tao walked away from Goku and approached his brother's students. Roshi noticed the altercation between Tao and his student and he started walking over to Goku. Is everything alright, Goku? Goku turned around and faced his disguised master. The worry and seriousness vanished from Goku's face and he returned to the cheerful self he normally was. Hi Jackie, I'm happy to see you again. I can't wait for us to have a rematch. Roshi grinned at the thought of facing his student in the ring again. He didn't doubt for a moment that it would be a fun and challenging match. Still, he didn't come over for idle chit-chat. I look forward to our match too if we meet in the ring, Goku. However, you never answered my question. Is everything alright? Things looked very serious when that other fighter was talking to you. To Roshi's surprise, Goku's face became serious and his voice lost its normal joyful tone. Things aren't alright, Jackie. That was Mercenary Tao and he's an assassin that was hired by the Red Ribbon Army a few years to kill me over something I had. I beat him after he killed a friend's father and I thought he had died by blowing himself up. It looks like he survived after all. What are you planning on doing about this, Goku? Quote, Goku's face hardened even further as he voiced his resolve. If I face him in the ring, I'll treat him like any other competitor. The ring is no place to settle personal disputes and everyone, even him, deserves a second chance. However, if he tries to attack me or anyone else outside of a match, I'll destroy him in order to stop him from hurting others. Roshi nodded his head, gently placed his hand on Goku's shoulder, and gave his student a small smile. That is a very wise and mature decision, Goku. One of the hardest lessons any person, martial artist or not, can learn is how to use the power they have. You are correct in that mercy should be shown to all, but even then there are people who will not reform their ways. I'm sure your master will be pleased to see how you've grown. There was a half-hour break between the preliminaries and the main tournament in order to give the contestants a chance to rest. Goku used this time to break away his friends for a moment, claiming he had to use the bathroom. While this was true, Goku delayed his return so he could pull out his scouter to check on everyone. First, Goku checked out his friends to see how they had grown. Yamcha had a power level 140, Krillin had a power level of 160, Jackie Chun had a power level of 185, and Chi-Chi had a power level of 97. Once he knew his friends' levels, Goku turned to check out Mercenary Tao and the 2 Crane School students. Tao had a power level of 166, Chiaotzu's power level was 158, and Tien had a power level of 200. Armed with this information, Goku quickly stored his scouter back in its storage capsule. In terms of raw power generation, Goku was the strongest with a power level of 205. However, that wasn't saying a whole lot. Power levels TH. At the scouter detected was only a person's constant key generation output at the moment. First-hand experience with the Kamehameha wave told Goku that those numbers could change with a variety of things. Besides, skill still played an important role in any battle. It was possible that Chi-Chi, for example, could beat him even though he was twice as strong as her. As Goku rejoined his friends, Tao was giving Chiaotzu some orders. Listen, Runt, you are to arrange for me to fight Goku in our first match. I've waited 3 years for revenge and I'm not about to let it slip through my fingers on the off chance Goku loses his match. If I don't take out Goku in this tournament, I'll take my frustrations out on you. Chiaotzu gulped and nodded his head. I understand, sir. Tien gave his master's broth. A questioning glance and then turned to look at his little friend. Hey Chiaotzu, would you mind setting things up so that I fight Yamcha in the first round? Chiaotzu nodded his head and smiled at Tien. Sure thing, Tien. The announcer chose this time to walk into the waiting area. Hello everyone, it's great to see some talented returning fighters and some new faces as well. Let's move on to He drawing of lots to see who each of you will be facing off against. We'll start the drawing with Jackie Chun since he's the returning champion, and then we'll simply go in alphabetical order. Everio. Nay quickly drew their numbers and the attendant wrote them on the board. The fights in the first round were Yamcha vs Tien, Jackie vs Chi-Chi, Krillin vs Chiaotzu, and finally Goku vs Tao. After looking at the board, the announcer smiled and said, all right then. Would Yamcha and Tien please follow me to the ring, and would the rest of you just stay here to watch? Everyone nodded their heads and the first fighters followed the tournament announcer into the ring. Krillin had a big grin on his face as the announcer started things off. Man, this is great. Yamcha's going to wipe the floor with that pompous Triclops. Master Roshi had us both using 100 kilograms turtle shells during our training, so we've both gotten far stronger than we used to be. Besides, Yamcha isn't fighting a martial arts master with experience that rivals our own master. Goku nodded his head, but wasn't nearly as jovial as Krillin. I hate to break it to you, Krillin, but Yamcha winning this match will calm down to his skill and not his strength. Krillin blinked his eyes in shock. Say what? Are you actually saying that Tien is stronger than Yamcha? Goku nodded his head. Krillin, Tien is the second strongest fighter here in raw ability. I only have a slight edge on him in that regard. This whole tournament will be determined by skill more than anything. Still, I can't wait to see how this match goes. Yamcha walked into the ring with a confident grin on his face, which was mirrored by Tien. The announcer glanced at the two contestants and called out, "This is it, ladies and gentlemen, the first fight of the 22 Tenkaichi Budokai. In this fight we have returning contestant Yamcha, who in the last tournament fought heroically against Jackie Chun. Since the last tournament, Yamcha has studied Ender, the legendary master Roshi of the Turtle School. Against him today is newcomer Tien Shinhan, who is representing the Crane School. The antagonism between the Crane and the Turtle Schools is legend. Airy among martial arts lore, even though the two schools are rumored to spring from the same parent school, making this battle a showdown between rivals. Which fighter will prove to be the better one is to be determined by this match starting now. Signal given, Yamcha and Tien leapt into action. The audience watched in amazement as the two martial artists furiously traded blows with each other. At times, Tien and Yamcha's arms would seemingly disappear because of the speed they were traveling at. From time to time Yamcha and then Tien would start to drive the other towards the edge of the ring, only for their efforts to be reversed. Eventually, Yamcha pulled back and smirked at Tien. Well, it seems that you're tougher than you look. Tien didn't let Yamcha's taunt get to him. I must say, apparently you're not all bark after all. Yamcha scowled and then back-flipped to put some distance between him and Tien. You overconfident fool, you'll soon see that I'm all bite. Let me show you my ultimate technique. Kamehameha. Krillin, Roshi, and the audience all gasped in shock as Yamcha launched a fist-sized beam of blue ki energy. Goku wasn't surprised that Yamcha could use the Kamehameha wave. After all, Yamcha had enough power for a ki attack and he had seen that move several times beforehand. If Tien was surprised by Yamcha's move, he didn't show it at all. He quickly brought his hands together with his first two fingers on each hand raised. A small bluish-white tint radiated from Tien and he yelled out as the Kamehameha wave approached him. Ki. Light blue waves emanate. D from Tien's hands as the Kamehameha wave reached him. What the hell? Yamcha cried out as he watched his attack stop a hair's breadth from hitting Tien. Seconds later, the wave stopped forming a blue sphere in front of Tien. The three-eyed warrior grinned and yelled again, sending the attack back towards Yamcha. You've got to be kidding me. He reflected it. The former bandit couldn't believe what his eyes were telling him. Luckily for Yamcha, instincts don't require belief to work. He jumped 60 feet into the air and the reflected attack missed him, destroying a nearby statue. However, Lady Luck was as temperamental as Bulma or Chi-Chi could be. Tien leapt into the air after Yamcha and almost instantly was above the turtle school student. The crane student slammed his fists into Yamcha's back, sending him crashing into the arena floor. Tien quickly followed Yamcha to the ground with his knee set up to break Yamcha's leg. Seconds before the blow occurred, Tien straightened out his leg, landing on it with his knee only inches away from Yamcha's leg. The announcer started counting and when he got to 10 declared Tien the winner of the fight. Tien walked out of the ring and Puar quickly transformed into a magic carpet so that Yamcha could be carried off of the arena. A hand reached out and grabbed Tien as soon as he entered the fighter's waiting area. To Tien's surprise, he was thrown into the dividing wall by Dao, who was snarling. Have you learned nothing, you stupid boy? Never let your opponent go without killing or crippling him. Perhaps you need a little refresher course. Dao grinned and started to pull back his fist. Quick as lightning, Roshi grabbed Dao's fist and firmly held it in place. Know three things, Dao. First, if you strike Tien now, you'll be disqualified for fighting outside the ring. Secondly, I'll personally send you to hell for harming a martial artist who only fought honorably in an honorable competition. Finally, there is the distinct possibility of young Goku sending you to hell before I can. Roshi then gestured with his head to the right where Goku was floating in the air with a prepared Kamehameha ready to fire. The look on Goku's face clearly showed that he'd fire it at Dao if the mercenary so much as blinked. Dao scowled and let Tien go. You've earned yourself a temporary reprieve, Tien. Do expect your next lesson to be even more painful than it would have been just now. Dao then left to go sit in a shadowy corner where he could fume in silence. Tien stood up and quickly brushed himself off. He then bowed to Roshi. Thank you for your assistance, Mr. Chun. Roshi smiled and replied, think nothing of it, Tien. Talent should be cultivated, not attacked. You've earned a great deal of power through your hard work. I just pray that you learn how to use it wisely. With that, Roshi left to go to his match and Tien started to think long and hard about many things. The announcer grinned since this was turning out to be one memorable tournament. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving on to the second fight. In this match we have returning champion Jackie Chun facing off against Princess Chi-Chi of the Ox Kingdom. Jackie has gone down in martial arts lore with his epic match against Son Goku in the last tournament, while Chi-Chi has demonstrated enough power and skill to rival her feared father the Ox King. Let us now see whether experience and wisdom will get the better of beauty and bronze or not. Chi-Chi started off the match with a ferocious attack of kicks and hand chops. Roshi expertly either cted Chi-Chi's blows or weaved away from them. Silently, the old master was evaluating his old student's daughter. Ox King had definitely done a very thorough job with the girl's training. Her form was excellent, aggressive, but it didn't have any holes in it. After a few minutes, Roshi decided to kick it up a notch. The old master quickly went on the offensive, seeing how Chi-Chi could fight defensively. She may prefer an aggressive style, but it was immediately obvious that she was just as good at defense as she was at offense. Several times Chi-Chi tried to return to the offense. Her tactics were sound and would have worked against most opponents. But Roshi was simply too experienced to lose control of the fight. Around the 10-minute mark, Roshi decided that enough was enough and put some distance between him and Chi-Chi. Well, little princess, I must say that it's been an honor to fight against you and that you are a credit to your teachers. You've apparently mastered everything that your father can teach you. I'd suggest you seek out his master for more training. However, let's finish this match, Ki. Roshi shoved his fist out with the palm towards Chi-Chi, creating a powerful gust of wind. Chi-Chi tried to resist the tornado-like pull of the wind. She dug her feet into the stadium floor, but then she started to be pushed backwards. Refusing to be blown away, Chi-Chi gritted her teeth and slammed her fingers into the arena floor. The improvised handholds temporarily stopped Chi-Chi's journey to the edge. However, Roshi didn't let up, feeding the gust of wind resulting. In Chi-Chi and the tile, she was death gripping to go flying out of the arena. The announcer called the ring out when Chi-Chi's back hit the audience wall. Chi-Chi looked up with a pout on her face to see her father looking down at her. "Sorry for losing my match, father." Ox King smiled and replied, "That's all right, dear. You did your best and that's all that matters. Besides, it's quite an accomplishment for a 16-year-old girl to become one of the 8 strongest people in the world and give a good match to the previous champion." Goku walked over to Tien, who was still meditating, and politely coughed. As soon as Tien opened his eyes, Goku said, "Hey there. Your friend is about to have his match. Don't you want to watch him fight?" Tien looked down at the ground. "I do want to watch Chiaotzu. However, I need to sort some things out for myself at the moment. Besides, I have full confidence in Chiaotzu's abilities as a fighter." Goku nodded his head, accepting Tien's reasoning. The Ong Saiyan then sat down next to Tien and rested his back against the wall. Tien gave Goku a puzzled look. "Aren't you going to watch your friend?" Goku smiled and replied, "It wouldn't be fair to Chiaotzu if Krillin had me watching his match, but Chiaotzu didn't have you watching his match. Besides, I also have full confidence in Krillin's abilities." Tien shrugged his shoulders and accepted Goku's rather bizarre logic. It was just another item on a long list of things that he needed to sort out. It was all so frustrating for Tien. This whole tournament was supposed to be simple. Master Crane had entered him and Chiaotzu into the tournament in order to humiliate the Turtle Hermit by having them beat the Turtle Hermit's prized students. Things first started to get complicated when Master Tao showed up to compete as a cyborg. It was almost unimaginable that Tao could have been beaten bad enough to undergo that kind of surgery. Then there was the unexpectedly demanding way Tao insisted on facing Goku. Sure, Tao had always been demanding during training, but not to that degree. Finally, there was the incidents after his match with Jackie and Goku coming to his defense. That last bit Saint didn't make any sense to Tien's worldview. People just don't jump to another's aid without good reason. Sure, Tien would jump to Chiaotzu's aid in an instant, and he knew that his friend would do the same. However, that was because he and Chiaotzu were brothers in all but blood after everything they went through together. Jackie hadn't offered any reason why the former champion jumped to his defense. Both Jackie and Goku had everything to lose by coming to his aid, since they could be disqualified for fighting outside the ring. In fact, it would have been in their favor if Tao and he got into a fight, since that would be 2 less competitors for them. That was especially true for Jackie, who would have been assured a spot in the finals. The duo's further actions only continued to distort Tien's worldview. Jackie's match with Chi-Chi made it obvious that he was evaluating her as a fighter. He could have ended it at any time, and yet he didn't end the match until he had tested every aspect of Chi-Chi's fighting ability. Why had he done so? Goku also was an enigma. What reason could a complete stranger have for making sure that he watched Chiaotzu's match? Furthermore, why had Goku dead not to watch a match that the boy was obviously eager to see, simply because it wasn't fair to Chiaotzu? The more Tien pondered these issues, the more confused and uncertain he became. Krillin eventually won his match by distracting Chiaotzu with math problems, enabling the turtle midget to knock the crane midget out of the arena. Finally, the last match of the day was about to begin. Goku and Tao walked onto the stadium side by side, with the tension between them so thick that the audience could cut it. Seemingly oblivious, the announcer happily began his duties. Young son Goku is only 5 years old, and yet he is a veteran of the Tenkaichi Budokai, having come within a hair's breadth of being the winner of the last tournament at the age of 12. Facing off against him is the feared Mercenary Tao, who is known throughout the world as best fighter money can buy and whispered to be an elite assassin. Fighters ready, fight. Like the previous matches, Tao and Goku leapt into the fight. However, the aura of this fight was different from the others. There was an innate hostility and aggressiveness in both Goku and especially Tao's blows that the previous fighters didn't have. This wasn't Ta friendly or serious match between marital artists. It was a battle between two warriors that could only end in the defeat of one warrior. What shape that defeat took depended on the fighter. Goku's driving blows clearly showed his intent to force Tao into a ring-out. The potentially crippling strikes Tao tried to land on Goku showed that at best he wanted to put Goku into a coma. Amazing, Tien muttered as he watched the match. He had reluctantly decided to watch Goku's match hoping to find some key to understand the enigma that was Son Goku. His form and power is just as good as Tao's. How can he be so good? Roshi slid over on the separator wall to get closer to Tien and Chiaotzu. That boy has always had a tremendous, almost otherworldly, aptitude for fighting. What can take others weeks or months to learn? Goku seems to learn in minutes or hours. Yamcha told me once that Goku learned how to do the Kamehameha after seeing his master perform it once before he even received any training. His current ability does not surprise me in the least. However, I would suggest you pay even closer to the match. Look at the blows they are trading. Tien did as Roshi suggested and was shocked at what he saw. A split second before Tao moved for a strike, Goku's hand moved to block it. Again, and yet still again Goku was moving to block or redirect Tao's blows before Tao even made them. Chiaotzu blurted out, "Unbelievable, Goku is reading Tao's movements and responding to them faster than Tao can carry out his moves." Tao had reached the same conclusion as the other fighters had. Currently, Goku was firmly holding Tao's mechanical left hand. Suddenly, Tao yelled out, "I've had enough of this." There was a clicking sound and to Goku's shock Tao's hand disconnected itself. Tao used the momentary shock to thrust out with his handless limb as a sword sprang out of it. Goku tried to avoid the blade, but he didn't have enough time. The young Saiyan unleashed a blood curdling scream of pain as Tao's blade gouged out his right eye and sent some of the bone from his eye socket flying. Goku fell to his knees from the pain and shock. The announcer called out in rage, "He match is over with Tao disqualified for using a weapon." Roshi and Krillin started racing out towards the arena to help get Goku to a hospital. However, Tao screamed out, "This isn't over by a long shot." Suddenly a loud explosion shook the arena. Everyone turned to stare in horror as one of the many hotels was set ablaze. Tao sneered at Roshi, Krillin, and the announcer. "I've rigged bombs in every hotel on this island and in many other places. If anyone dares move 1 inch closer to the ring, I'll set them all off. Unless you want thousands of people to die, you will leave Goku and me alone to settle our issues." Tao then broke out into a maniacal fit of laughter. "You monster!" Goku screamed out in rage as he gave Tao a fierce uppercut that sent him flying back several feet. Goku rose to his feet and placed a hand over his bleeding eye socket. The young Saiyan hissed slightly as he used his ki to cauterize the wound. When Goku removed his hand, everyone could see a jagged and wicked-looking scar running from the bridge of his nose, through where his eyelids would have met, and through the chipped-off eye socket bone on the edge of his face, only tapering off just shy of his ear. "Even after everything that you did to me before this match, I was willing to forgive you so that you could have another chance. However, you've proven yourself to be nothing but a monster in a man's skin by breaking the rules of this tournament and endangering thousands just to get back at me. The time for forgiveness is over, Tao, because I'm going to send you to hell. Let's see how a monster in a man's body fares against a man in a monster's body." Krillin gulped and called out to Roshi, "Hey Jackie. What on earth is Goku talking about?" Roshi was trying to figure out what Goku was saying. Suddenly, he remembered the finals from the last tournament and Goku's transformation. Could that be what Goku was talking about? "No," Roshi whispered in a scared voice, "that's impossible. He doesn't know about that and the moon is gone." Goku calmly held his hand out in front of him and closed his eyes for a second. Tao was curious about what Goku was planning and let him do it. After all, Goku's last victory was only a fluke and the boy was half blind. Mere seconds later, a baseball-sized orb was floating just above the young Saiyan's hand. Everyone who knew Goku or had been to the last two tournament watched with bated breath as Goku threw the ball into air, shouting, "Mix and combine." Oolong squealed like a little pig and cried out, "This is a nightmare. Goku's created a full moon. We're all going to die." While Oolong was crying for his sow, Goku looked at the false moon he had created and started transforming. In less than a minute Goku completed his transformation into an Uzaru. Unlike at the last tournament, Goku's clothes hadn't been destroyed as he grew. Using Saiyan technology, Goku had been able to create a GI that would stretch with his transformation. Also, the great AP. He wasn't thrashing wildly about like at the last tournament and was instead calmly standing with his arms across his chest. A deep, almost beastly voice rumbled out from the Uzaru's mouth. This is the form of your executioner Tao. I'm 10 times stronger in this form and my power is always at its max. Goku turned his head slightly, seeing Roshi and Krillin bleached white in fear. Don't worry friends, I have complete control over myself in this form, unlike last time I was in the ring. It took me nearly a year of constantly transforming, but I control the beast within me now. It does not control me. Tao sneered and called out, "You're just a big useless target, Goku. Even if you were 100 times stronger in that form, you're still going to die." The cyborg assassin retracted the blade eye. NTO his arm and the muzzle of a gun came out. Take this, Maximum Dodonpa. A massive orange beam of ki shot out of Tao's arm gun and slammed into Goku. However, Tao's attack barely singed Goku's fur in his Uzaru form. Goku then decided that enough was enough. He quickly reached out and grabbed Tao with a massive hand. The teenage Uzaru then chucked Tao into the air like a baseball and used the mercenary as a clay pigeon for his mouth blast. Goku turned to the audience and called out, "I'm sorry you all had to witness that since you wanted to see a good clean fight." With the Goku Tao death match over, the announcer called the end of the day's matches. Many of the people who had come to watch the tournament still stuck around though while the police searched for the bombs that Tao claimed to have planted. The monks, being rather understanding fellows, were hastily arranging for a banquet to hold everyone over till the bomb searches could be complete. Currently, the Dragon Ball gang, along with Tien and Chiaotzu, were gathered in the fighter waiting area. Goku was currently seated Indian style on Kintoon. Launch, Bulma, and Chi-Chi were off a little ways away talking about hairstyles. Krillin, Roshi, who was no longer in disguise, and Yamcha were circling Goku. Oolong and Puar were halfway between the fighters and the girls playing Go Fish. Ox King had left to get some food. Everyone but Goku, as the young Saiyan would have to get his own food as not even Ox King could carry enough food to fill that pit. Finally, the Crane students were meditating a little ways away but still near enough that they could hear everything that was said. Yamcha was the first of the guys to speak. "Man Goku, don't you think that you could have given us some warning that you had learned to control that transformation of yours? You almost gave me a heart attack." Goku shrugged his shoulders and replied, "Why should I? I wasn't planning to use it in the tournament. After all, the Tenkaichi High Budokai is supposed to be a friendly competition between martial artists. My Uzaru state is pretty much for when I need to destroy something quickly. Besides, it wasn't like any of you told me to. I could transform when I did so earlier." Everyone who had been at the previous tournament suddenly found the floor extremely fascinating to look at. Finally Chi-Chi walked over to the other fighters and shyly asked, "Goku, how did you learn to do that transformation of yours?" The young Saiyan got a faraway look in his eyes. "Early in my training, after I revived Appa's father with the Dragon Balls, I went back home. I found my grandpa's journal and it talked about me transforming one night. Once I discovered that fact, I vowed to control my Uzaru self. I found a technique that some fighters were dependent on the moon created and used it every day for a year until I could control myself." Roshi walked closer to Goku and gently placed a hand on the Saiyan's shoulder. "Goku, I think it's time I let you in on a little secret. Your grandfather and I had a brief chat before he returned to the other world. He wasn't bothered by the circumstances of his own arrival there, but was worried about how you were doing with that ability of yours. He is undoubtedly proud of your accomplishments. Few have inner demons as strong you do, and fewer still have the strength to conquer them." Goku gave his usual grin on hearing Roshi's praise. It was a little unnerving for everyone to watch Goku grin like that with his scarred missing eye practically taunting them to stare. Finally Launch called out after sneezing, "Hey Goku, are you going to get that eye of yours treated or not? I'm sure that I can get an eye patch for you from those wannabes I saw at the bar last night." Shaking his head Goku replied, Why should I go to a doctor? Dao's blade cut my eye out and cut it in two. I've already closed up the wound, so what more could a doctor do? The only way I could get my eye back is with Dragon Balls, and that seems like a pretty selfish wish to me. Yamcha added his 2 cents. I don't know, Goku. That doesn't sound nearly as selfish as some of the other wishes I've heard. Yamcha then glanced over at Oolong. Now, that was without a doubt one very selfish wish that Oolong had made, even though it did save the world from being ruled by Pilaf. The gang continued chatting about one thing after another, barely noting Ox King's arrival or that the announcer had stated that it was safe to return to the hotels. About the only noteworthy event was Chi-Chi getting Roshi to accept her as his pupil after Roshi assured Ox King that he was going to be serious about Chi-Chi's training. Sleep did not come easily to Goku. In fact, he couldn't sleep a wink because of his conscience. No matter how much he tried to justify it, Goku had killed Tao today and his conscience wouldn't let him rest because of that act. How could he be better than the Saiyans if he was willing to kill like that? Academically, Goku knew that Tao was too dangerous to live and it was a justified death. However, his heart wouldn't accept that reasoning. Around 1 in the morning, Goku gave up trying to get to sleep and got out of bed. He quietly put on some yellow pants and a blue GI top before he left the hotel room. Goku paused for a second to look at himself in the mirror and his missing eye. For a split second, Goku thought about using the Dragon Balls to regain the sight Tao took from him. However, Goku quickly changed his mind, a resolve to keep the scar and missing eye. It would serve as a good reminder about just how serious and final some fights could be. As long as he remembered that his actions had consequences, then he shouldn't head down the path of his people. Goku left his hotel room and headed up to the hotel roof. He walked over to the edge of the roof and sat down. He then looked up at the sky to see the brilliance of the lunar ring. The moon's shattered remains were breathtakingly beautiful and a somber reminder to Goku. It had been destroyed to keep him from running rampant 3 years ago. In many ways, the lunar ring was a reminder of the price that must be paid to protect the innocent cut into the heavens. Scanning the sky, Goku's eyes drifted in dread to an orange star that was faintly shining in between the chunks of the lunar ring. That star was none other than Kohlrabi, planet Vegeta's home sun. That star was another unwanted reminder to Goku that, as much as he thought of himself as a human, he wasn't one. Earth might have raised him, but it Vegeta that gave birth to him. There was fear in the back of Goku's mind that one day his race would come looking for him. After all, the only reason he was sent to Earth was to prepare it for resale. Why shouldn't he expect the Saiyans to come looking for why Earth wasn't on the intergalactic market yet? Still, every day that another Saiyan didn't show up was a good day for Goku. But what if the day came and they did arrive on Earth? What would he do then? While Goku was undoubtedly one of the strongest people on Earth at the moment, the problem was that he was only a low-powered third-class warrior by Saiyan ranking. There simply weren't any beings on Earth powerful enough to give him the chance to grow to the level that was needed to face off even a single second-class warrior. After all, the threat level of Earth was non-existent. It was a perfect planet for a teething mission. Goku slapped his cheeks with his hands and then shook his head. Alright, that's enough moping about. I might as well meditate if I can't get to sleep. After all, tomorrow I get to fight Krillin and either Jackie or Tien. The announcer stood in the center of the stadium and called out to crowd. Welcome martial arts enthusiasts. Today is the second day of the 22 Tenkaichi Budokai, where we will be having the semi-finals this morning and the finals this afternoon. For the first half of the semi-finals we have newcomer Tien Shinhan facing off against defending champion Jackie Chun. Will both fighters please come to the ring now? Tien and Roshi calmly walked into the ring shoulder to shoulder. Once in the ring, they walked the customary distance apart and waited for the signal to fight. The two fighters sprang into action as soon as the signal to start was given. Tien had started on the offense, but Roshi was simply blocking or dodging every attack that Tien made. After a while, Roshi got tired of being on the defensive and switched to offense. It was quite a shock for Tien to find himself on the defense in a fight. He wasn't used to reacting. He made others react to him in a fight. After taking a knee to the chest, the Triclops decided that enough was enough and he flew into the air. Floating a few feet above Roshi, he called out, solar flare. Tien smirked, figuring that he had rendered his opponent helpless. He then took advantage for Roshi's temporary blindness to fly at the old man with the intention of delivering a knockout kick to the back. However, Tien's foot never reached Roshi's back. To Tien's shock, Roshi had whirled around and blocked the attack with his left arm. "What?" Tien cried out in shock, "how can you do this? I blinded you with the solar flare." Roshi let out a small chuckle. "That you did, Tien. I still can't see anything even though my vision is starting to return." However, Roshi paused only long enough to punch Tien in the chest with his open palm. Only an inexperienced fighter relies on just his eyes in a fight. The eyes can easily be deceived. To emphasize this point, Roshi used the after-image technique several times and then punched the still-shocked Tien in back. As Roshi expected, Tien was able to quickly recover from the blow that he had just delivered. Tien turned to face Roshi and called out, "You're right, only an inexperienced fighter relies on just his eyes. However, an experienced fighter can use his eyes for far more than just seeing an enemy. Try this, Kamehameha." Roshi was momentarily surprised that Tien could create a Kamehameha wave after only seeing it once. But, the old master quickly recovered his wits and deflected the attack harmlessly into the air. Most of the audience was shocked and amazed at how the fight was going so far. However, the more attentive members of the audience were wondering why Tien wasn't surprised at how Aki had so effortlessly defected the Kamehameha wave. In fact, Tien was smirking. "Very impressive, Jackie-chun. It was quite interesting how you were able to so effortlessly reflect the Kamehameha wave. Were you shocked to see a student of your rival use your own attack?" Goku, Krillin, the rest of the Dragon Ball gang not in the know, and many members of the audience gasped in shock. Jackie-chun was Master Roshi. Tien smirked and called out, "You did a good job of hiding it, old man, but you messed up a few things with your disguise. First, you can't change your facial structure, although I'll admit that the wig you're wearing and removing your sunglasses were very useful in throwing off suspicion. Second, your style of fighting is the original Turtle School style and not a derivative or heavily influenced by it. Finally, a quick background check reveals that Jackie-chun doesn't exist and no one has heard of him except for appearing at the 21 Tenkaichi Budokai." Realizing that the jig was up, Roshi pulled the wig off his head. "You can't just let an old martial arts master enter a tournament in disguise, can you, Tien?" "Fine, I'll admit it, I am Master Roshi." The turtle hermit then pulled out a pair of his customary sunglasses and put them on his face. Tien was smiling. "Thank you for this fight, turtle hermit. It's exciting to face off against someone more powerful than my own master. However, would you come at me with your full power? I can sense that you aren't using your full potential and I don't want to chance winning against someone because they were handicapping themselves. It wouldn't make any victory on my part satisfying." Roshi shrugged and decided it was time to teach Tien a lesson in humility. His cover might be blown, but he wasn't about to give up his merry mission of making sure that the younger martial arts learned some valuable lessons. Gathering his energy, Roshi let out a yell as his muscles started to bulge. When it was finally over, Roshi had grown almost a foot and looked like a bodybuilder with the muscles he had. "All right, Tien, you've got what you asked for. I'm now at my maximum power." Round 2 of Tien and Roshi's fight began in AR Nest as the audience eagerly watched the remaining Crane contestant battle the master of his rival school. Tien had expected that Roshi would be a harder opponent now that he was using his full power. However, the punch Roshi delivered to Tien's stomach felt like a freight train had hit the Triclops. That first punch was only a taste of what Roshi had in store for Tien. Two things became very obvious as the fight continued. First, Roshi was much more powerful when he was using his maximum power and those muscles didn't slow him down. Second, it was becoming ever more obvious to Tien that the 2RTLE Hermit had purchased his ass and was paying off the mortgage in pain. Goku was surprised to see just how much more powerful Roshi was in his current state. The Teen Saiyan quickly pulled out his scouter to get an exact read on Roshi power. "Amazing," Goku whispered to himself. "Master Roshi's power has increased to 320. Krillin never noticed Goku using the scouter because he was too amazed at how Roshi owned the fight. Finally, Roshi felt that Tien had learned his lesson and picked the teenager up by his neck. Quietly he whispered to the boy. You're a good lad, Tien, and you have a lot of potential. No doubt you'll one day surpass me in strength one day. However, you must learn your limits so you can surpass them and learn to never assume that you're the strongest. As strong as I am, I know that there are beings on this world with far more power than I have. Still, I enjoyed our fight and I hope we can fight again in the future so I can see how you've improved. With that said, she walked to the edge of the stadium and dropped Tien out of the ring. The announcer was grinning like a madman as he did the introductions for the second half of the semifinals. Well folks, it appears that we are in for a treat today. In the second half of the semifinals we have veteran fighters stepping into the ring. Goku and Krillin will be battling it out to see who can advance to the finals, where the winner will face off against their master for the championship of this tournament. Krillin was nervous about his fight. He had no doubts that Goku was more powerful than he. The fact that Goku had his Uzaru trump card almost sealed the deal on the fight. The only way Krillin could see to win was to trick Goku and to exploit Goku's blind spot. As soon as the fight started, Krillin and Goku started trading blows. It was quite obvious as the two teams continued fighting that they were both equally skilled when it came to the arts of battle. However, it was also obvious that Goku was the stronger of the two boys. The Saiyan's punches simply hurt more, his reflexes were faster, allowing him to block quicker, and he could soak up the damage from the hits Krillin landed easier. It was only a few minutes into the fight and Krillin was already sweating from exhaustion. He quickly decided that now was the time to spring his plan into action. Hey look, is that a noodle cart offering free food to fighters? Goku's head whipped around to find the noodle cart, causing Krillin to grin. Goku might be stronger than him, but he was still smarter than Goku. In the end, it was always he smarter fighter who would win a battle. Unfortunately for Krillin, the bald fighter couldn't see the grin on Goku's face. The Teen Saiyan called out, Thunder Shock Surprise. Goku's tail glowed with a greenish gold light which Krillin was almost instantly sporting as well. If Krillin had hair on his head it would have been standing up straight from the electricity coursing through his body. Goku jumped up into the air and flew towards the barrier wall, with his rival being dragged behind, unable to let go of Goku's tail from the shock. Krillin's time as a human light bulb ended when Goku gently whacked him into the wall, knocking him out of bounds. Krillin comically fell to the ground on his butt, twitching every few seconds from the residual electricity. Goku was simply floating a foot off the ground, grinning at how silly Krillin looked. The announcer was momentarily shocked at the scene, but quickly recovered. Alright ladies and gentlemen, thanks to a shocking upset and a ring out, Goku is the winner of this match. That means that he will be going to the finals for a rematch against Master Roshi for a shot at the 22 Tenkaichi Budokai Tournament Championship. Hearing that Goku was on to the finals snapped Krillin out the shock he was in. He stood up, looked at his surroundings, and then sighed. Well, I gave it my best shot. Krillin then turned to look at Goku, who was still giggling. How did you do it, Goku? I had you by the tail. With a grin Goku replied, It's simple, Krillin, I trained my tail so it wouldn't be a weak point for me. I figured you, Yamcha, or Master Roshi would try to use my tail against me in this tournament, so I remembered Roshi's Thunder Shock surprise technique and recreated it. Off to the side, the non-combatants and already eliminated competitors of the Dragon Ball gang were staring with their mouths open. I don't believe it, Oolong muttered to himself. Does Goku have any weaknesses left? He almost seems inhuman. A slight frown momentarily crossed Goku's face as his superior hearing picked up Oolong's comment. That careless comment almost felt like a knife being driven into his heart. Only two facts allowed Goku to keep smiling. Olo. Enji's voice didn't have any malice or fear in it, and the cold truth that he wasn't a human. Lunch was a very interesting affair for the Dragon Ball gang. How could it not be when two of their friends, even Bulma, was grudgingly willing to consider Roshi as her friend, were going to be fighting each other for the title of strongest under the heavens? The monks had prepared a feast fit for kings and air, happily serving it to the entire group. Goku was seated at one end of the table and Roshi sat at the other end. Everyone else was sitting between the two, with the set of seats immediately next to Goku empty. He might be their dear friend, but no one wanted to risk losing their lunch to Goku's gut. Chi-Chi looked over to Goku was having trouble wrapping her mind around the fact that he was eating so much. She thought that he had eaten a lot during their date a few days ago because he was famished from getting to the island. But, she had just watched him eat twice as much as he did during the date. She turned to Krillin and whispered, "Does he ever stop?" Krillin was annoyed at having Goku's eating habits brought up while he was eating. That wasn't something conducive to digestion. His body shifted to a defensive posture ready to defend his plate if need be, a habit he had picked up after spending a year training with Goku. Eventually that pit gets satisfied. Launch checked a few T's and found that Goku tends to stop once he's had enough to feed 10 people. Occasionally he'll eat a little more, but that's usually before a fight or after he's been injured. Where he puts it all is something I'll never figure out. Trying to turn the conversation to more pleasant subjects, Yamcha asked, "Master Roshi." Once he had everyone's attention, Yamcha continued, "What happens if Goku wins the match between you two? It was very close last time after all. Would that make Goku a master of the Turtle School?" Roshi shrugged his shoulders and replied, "Winning a fight against me would not make Goku a master. Being a master of martial arts requires one to both know the art and know how to use it properly. Goku has already demonstrated both of these requirements to my satisfaction. If he wants to be officially recognized as a genuine master of the Turtle School, all he has to do is ask me and I will gladly sign his certification." Goku paused his feeding frenzy long enough to listen to what Roshi had to say. "Thanks Master Roshi, but I don't need to be a recognized master at the moment. Still, it's great that you think I'm ready. What about Krillin and Yamcha? Do you think that they're ready as well?" Both fighters eagerly turned to look at Roshi. The old master took a sip of tea and then gave his answer. "In terms of raw fighting skill, both Krillin and Yamcha are ready to be masters. However, I'm still not convinced that you two are mentally ready for the title. Yamcha, you are still too arrogant when it comes to your skills and you continually underestimate your opponents. Despite the obvious signs that Tien was a powerful fighter, you continued to dismiss him even into your fight. Krillin, you've demonstrated a dangerous lack of planning ahead and poor tactical judgment. Your match with Chiatsu was a clear case of this. You knew that there would be fighters at the tournament capable of using their ki, and instead of practicing on your own like Yamcha, you wait until the middle of a fight. Secondly, why were you trying to learn how to do the Kamehameha wave in the middle of a tournament battle? Improvising like that is tolerable in a real battle in order to save someone's life. But doing something that dangerous because of a tournament is just stupid. The smart decision in that situation would have been to simply forfeit the match. Until you two fix these flaws of yours, I cannot in good consciousness name either of you a master. Of course, I say this with full confidence that both of you will correct the mistakes that I've pointed out to you. Why, I wouldn't be surprised if both of you are ready for the title by the time the next Tenkaichi Budokai rolls around." The audience was practically radiating excitement as Roshi and Goku walked onto the arena stage. With great gusto the announcer began to speak. 3 years ago, master and student unknowingly battled it out to see who would become the strongest under the heavens. Both combatants gave everything they had in that fight, with Master Roshi under the alias of Jackie-chan narrowly beating Goku. However, that was 3 years ago. The question on everyone's mind today is, can the Invincible old master defeat his student again, or will Goku prove today that students can surpass their teachers? As soon as the gong rang, Goku flew at Roshi and began a ferocious frontal assault. Goku was attacking far more aggressively than he usually did. As Roshi blocked and in a few cases barely dodged, he commented on this. "Why Goku, I don't think I've ever seen you so aggressive before in battle." Roshi paused for a second to duck under a kick and block an attempted strike at his head from Goku's tail. "Your form is excellent, but what's with this all-out offense of yours?" To many people's surprise, Goku actually answered his teacher. "I'm not about to make Tien's mistake. At the moment I'm stronger than you, but if you power up I'll need to go Uzaru to have more power than you. I'm not about to go Uzaru in a friendly match. My best option to win is to prevent you from powering up." That's a very wise strategy, Goku. It is never a good idea to let your opponent become more powerful in a battle. Even more so if you know that they will become more powerful than you. However, Roshi paused to deliver a powerful kick and then blasted Goku into the air in the same manner he did with Chi-Chi. Roshi immediately started gathering his energy and transformed into his maximum power state just as Goku started flying back into the ring. You need to learn how to fight when you don't have the upper hand in strength. Goku. Round 2 of Goku and Roshi's battle immediately started as student and teacher returned to slugging it out. Roshi's speed, strength, and experience gave him several very powerful weapons to use against Goku. However, the Teen Saiyan wasn't about to become his master's punching bag. Utilizing his relatively small size and lightning-quick reflexes, Goku weaved around and with Roshi's attacks like a ferret from hell. Of course, even when Goku was hit he still fought back like the time Roshi punched him in the face only for Goku to kick his master's elbow. Even giving as good as he got, Goku knew he was losing this fight. Finding an opening, Goku weaved away from one of Roshi's punches and flew up into the air. Goku floated above the stadium for a second catching his breath. His face then got serious and he screamed out, "Thundering God Fist." Both of Goku's fists started to crackle with green energy as his ki started changing into electricity. With his new technique in hand, Goku flew at Roshi ready to continue their fight. Roshi figured that this was some variant of his Thunder Shock surprise technique and tried to grab Goku's wrists. However, Goku weaved just enough so that his fists grazed Roshi, sending 20,000 volts of electricity through the turtle Hermit. Using Roshi's shock, Goku ran his hands a hair's breadth above Roshi's arms, paralyzing the muscles, and then punched the old man's chest. With Roshi immobilized, Goku flipped backward and fired a Kamehameha wave at his teacher. This Kamehameha was extra wide so it pushed Roshi out of the ring. Goku blinked his eyes making sure that Roshi had landed outside the ring. His face light up as a big smile appeared on his face. "I did it," Goku whispered to himself. The audience was then treated to Goku jumping up and down in pure joy. "Hooray! I won the tournament." The audience started smiling and clapping their hands in applause. Something about the childlike joy Goku had was so freely sharing over his victory spread like wildfire. Even Roshi was smiling as the monks helped him to his feet. The good mood of the crowd came crashing down as a voice yelled out, "Dodonpa!" A thin beam of orange energy raced from a point in the audience and shot through Goku's back and out his belly. Goku fell to arena floor in shock as the Crane Hermit flew out of the audience. Crane Hermit pulled out a short sword from his sleeve shouting out, "Now you will die Goku and my brother shall be avenged." Roshi tried to come to Goku's aid, but he was still paralyzed from Goku's attack. Krillin, Yamcha, and Chi-Chi jumped over the railing and ran to Goku's defense. However, they weren't moving as fast as Crane Hermit. Just as Crane Hermit was finishing his approach, he found himself surrounded by a blue glow that stopped him in his tracks. A blur then appeared and sent Crane flying into the arena with his sword impaling him. Eyes full of rage, Crane looked up at his attackers and hissed out, "You traitors!" Tien and Chiatsu floated above their master with looks of disdain and sadness. Chiatsu quickly landed next to Crane Hermit so he could treat the man's wound while Tien spoke. "Even though you are our master, we cannot let you dishonor yourself by attacking Goku in this manner, sir. Now is not the time or place to battle Goku, and how is it even possible to avenge a man who dishonored himself by holding innocent people hostage to try and win a tournament match?" Fighting through the pain, Goku's voice cut through arena. "Tien, in my right boot is a senzu bean from the land of Corin. If you get it, cut it in half, and give one half to each of us, both your master and I can live." Before coming to Papaya Island, Goku had made a detour to go visit Appa and his friend's father. He and Appa had climbed Corin's tower and Corin had given him that senzu before starting on Appa's training. Tien blinked his eyes in shock. Goku was dying and he wanted to eat. Suddenly, he remembered the stories that his master would tell after physical training was over for the day. The senzu beans were supposed to feed a man for 10 days or could heal a dying man to perfect health. Tien quickly pulled off Goku's boot and found the dried up old bean. He immediately broke it in two, gave one half to Goku, and then moved to give the remaining piece to his master. Before Tien could hand the senzu to his master, Crane spat at him. "I'd rather die than be saved by the actions of that brat." Tien still wanted to save his master out of residual loyalty, but Crane Hermit bit his own tongue off to prevent his receiving the senzu. The Dragon Ball gang, except for Chi-Chi who had left to get Goku's things, was currently squeezed into a small room that the monks used as a clinic. Currently, everyone was looking at the bed that Goku was lying on as the doctor that the monks had fetched checked him out. The doctor gave Goku a thorough checkup and then chuckled. "I see that the legend of the senzu beans is true." He then turned to Roshi and said, "Don't worry about your student, sir. All of his major wounds were healed, leaving him with just a few minor bursts. All he needs is a good knee. It's rest and then the little champion will be good as new." Roshi smiled and replied, "That's good to hear." Everyone in the group, including Tien and Chiatsu, was relieved to hear that news. The Seater frowned slightly and then leaned in closer to Master Roshi. "Sir, can I speak to you in private?" Roshi frowned and nodded his head. The two started to leave the room and nobody noticed except for Bulma. Curious, the genius followed the doctor and the old perv as they walked down the hall. Once the doctor was sure that he couldn't be overheard, not realizing that Bulma was tailing him, he spoke to Roshi. "I'm only telling you this because you are listed as Goku's guardian, Master Roshi. We did some blood work on Goku when he first came in just in case we needed to do a transfusion. The monk who did the analysis gave me the results a few minutes ago." "I'll be blunt, sir. What is Goku?" Roshi got defensive and quickly replied, "Just what kind of question is that?" Mentally, Roshi was cursing G himself for not switching Goku's blood sample with the vial of his own blood he had prepared for just such an emergency. Damn it, he was so worried about Goku that he forgot to do the switch. The doctor frowned and then replied, "Sir, to say that Goku's blood type is unique would be an understatement. It doesn't match any human blood type, nor is it connected to any Anthropo-Saipan blood type that we have record of in medicine. If I didn't know better, I'd say that it came from someone who didn't evolve on Earth." That was enough for Roshi. He quickly placed the doctor under hypnosis. "There is nothing wrong with Goku's blood sample. You've found that someone has pulled a prank on you and will destroy the faulty records." The doctor nodded his head and left to fulfill his hypnotic commands. Bulma quickly backed away and rejoined the rest of the gang, hoping that no one had noticed her absence. Silently, she wondered what could be so important about Goku that Roshi felt the need to destroy the boy's medical records. After all, wasn't he just a strong kid from the country with an unusual monkey tail? Bulma watched as Roshi rejoined the group and started talking with Goku like nothing was wrong. A few minutes later, the Dragon Ball gang was interrupted by the sound of monks running with medical bed. Everyone, even Goku, poked their heads out to see the monks scrambling to move a battered and bloody body to the next room. It was obvious to the fighters that even though the monks were trying their best, it was too late. Whoever they were trying to care for was already dead. Goku caught a glimpse of the person's face and whispered out in horror, "Chi-Chi." Ox King heard Goku's whisper and yelled out, "Oh no, not Chi-Chi." He then raced after the monks, praying that Goku had been mistaken. In a few minutes Ox King returned with tears in his eyes. "My precious daughter, someone killed Chi-Chi." Roshi walked over to his old pupil and gave the giant man a hug. "Listen, Ox, we'll bring Chi-Chi back. Goku was able to resurrect his friend's father with the Dragon Balls, so I know we can do the same for Chi-Chi." Ox King nodded his head and then fire started to form in his eyes. "It's not enough, Master. I want my daughter back, but I also want those who took her away to pay. Do you recognize this symbol, Master?" The monks said that it was left by Chi-Chi's killer. Ox King handed Roshi a small slip of paper. Roshi took one look at the image on the paper and almost had a heart attack. "It can't be. This is the crest of the Demon King Piccolo." A blonde-haired launch snorted, "Piccolo? You mean someone willingly admits to having such a silly name?" Roshi's eyes hardened as he turned to face the Dragon Ball gang. "This is no laughing matter. The Demon King and his spawn nearly destroyed plunged this world into eternal darkness centuries ago. No army could defeat them. Cities were destroyed by the dozens and millions of people were slaughtered like animals. Crane and I were both students at the time, serving under the most powerful fighter of that era, Master Mutaito. Out of 300 students, only Crane and I survived when Piccolo's forces attacked. The only reason Why human life still exists on this planet is because Mutaito used a powerful spell to trap Piccolo in a jar which Crane and I cast into the ocean so that it could never be found. Someone must have found Piccolo's prison and released him. Why? I don't know, and at the moment it doesn't matter. All that matters is that this planet is entering into a very dark era. Goku's face got completely serious and he spoke up. Bulma, can you get my bag for me now? Bulma blinked her eyes and did as she was asked. As soon as Goku had the bag, he pulled out his scouter and placed it on his face. Goku, Krillin began. What is that thing on your face and what are you doing with it? While setting up the search settings, Goku replied, it's a device that detects power levels. With this I can find exactly where Piccolo is and see just how much power he has. The scouter quickly locked onto several power signals and Goku analyzed the information he was getting. Someone with a power of 170 is traveling rapidly away from here. That must be Chi-Chi's killer. Whoever they are, they're moving towards two individuals about 3,000 kilometers due east of here. One has a power level of 97 and the other has a power level of 327. The one with the power level of 327 must be Piccolo while the other two must be the start of his demon army. Goku turned off his scouter and put it away. He then turned to the Dragon Ball gang and grinned. Don't worry everyone, we can beat Piccolo. Both Tien and I are stronger than Chi-Chi's killer. Yamcha and Krillin are a little weaker than him but not by much, and Master Roshi, high at full power, is almost as powerful as Piccolo himself. Tien was shocked to hear that news. But Goku, Master Roshi just said that Piccolo was virtually unstoppable when he last walked the earth. How can he and Master Roshi be equals? Goku quickly replied, well, Piccolo has been locked away for centuries, right? That means that he couldn't train and probably lost a lot of his power. Master Roshi, high on the other hand, has been free and has been training during that time. Thus, they're both on the same level now, whereas before Piccolo was much more powerful. If we all fight together, we can kill Piccolo and avenge Chi-Chi. Then we can gather the Dragon Balls and wish her back to life. Roshi's hotel room had become a command center as the Dragon Ball gang planned out how they were going to deal with the Demon King and his still tiny forces. A map of the area that Piccolo was sensed to be in was lying on the table, surrounded by everyone. As the only living person to have fought against King Piccolo, Roshi started the meeting. We need to split into two groups. One will be our heavy fighters and the other will be everyone else with 1 or 2 fighters to act as guards. The fighter group will head off to confront Piccolo and hopefully kill both him and whoever unleashed him. Krillin, Tien, Chiatsu, Goku, and I will be the fighters who will challenge King Piccolo. Ox King and Yamcha will act as guards for the rest of you, as they should be able to deal with 1 or 2 demons spawned together. While we go to fight King Piccolo, you all will be collecting the remaining Dragon Balls so that we can wish Chi-Chi and anyone else that King Piccolo's men have killed. If we fail in our mission, you will need to steal back the Dragon Ball that they took from Goku and have Shenlong destroy the Demon King. Roshi turned to look at Goku, who had shocked everyone that morning by showing up in his Saiyan armor. Since Goku has the most information on our enemy's current power and has suggested this course of action, I'd suggest we listen to any plans he has and modify them accordingly. Goku pulled out some shogi pieces and placed them on the table. He set the reigning king at one point on the table with a silver general and a lance by it. The king is obviously the Demon King, the silver general is Chi-Chi's killer, and the lance is the weaker power that we detected near the Demon King. Goku then pulled out the challenging king, 2 gold generals with the second general promoted, and 2 knight pieces. Pointing to the pieces in the order he set them on the table, the young Saiyan elaborated. Master Roshi, Tien, myself, Krillin, and Chiaotzu. We will need 3 different battle plans depending on who is with King Piccolo when we attack and how things go. If both minions are with King Piccolo, then Krillin and Chiaotzu are to engage the lower power minion, Tien will hold off Chi-Chi's killer, and I will engage the Demon King. He then moved the pieces so that the people they represented were attacking each other. Krillin, Chiaotzu, and Tien's main objective is to keep the minions for helping King Piccolo, with the secondary objective of killing the minions if possible. My goal is to distract King Piccolo and keep him occupied long enough for Master Roshi to charge up his most powerful Kamehameha wave so he can vaporize King Piccolo. The other two plans are variations on this basic setup. If only one minion is with King Piccolo, then Krillin and Chiatsu will engage that minion while Tien and I fight off King Piccolo while Master Roshi has powers up. On the other hand, if there are far more minions than when we last checked, I will use my Uzaru transformation to destroy the minions. Krillin, in this scenario you'll be charged with protecting my false moon while Tien and Chiatsu guard Master Roshi. Are there any questions? Tien frowned and quickly asked, two things don't sit right with me. 1. Why are you always the one to engage King Piccolo? 2. Aaron, all of these plans heavily dependent on Master Roshi delivering the killing shot. Goku nodded his head. That is correct, Tien. I'm depending on Master Roshi to kill King Piccolo. However, this is because he is the most powerful member of our group, not counting me in my Uzaru state. I'd use it to kill King Piccolo, but I'm worried that my false moon will be a weak point that he can exploit. The reason why I must face King Piccolo is because I am the second strongest fighter and thus have the best chance of holding King Piccolo off. Besides, if necessary I'll have to hold King Piccolo in place for Master Roshi to hit him. Even though we have the Dragon Balls, it is the most potentially lethal place in the battle and I'm not about to put someone else in that spot. Chiatsu then chose to speak up. Goku, I can use my telekinesis to hold King Piccolo in place. Goku nodded his head. Okay Chiatsu. We'll do that first before I hold him in place. Does everyone think this is a good plan? With solemn nods, all of the fighters showed their agreement to Goku's battle plan. King Piccolo held the 4-star Dragon Ball in his hands, both marveled and disgusted by the tiny item. To think that such a trinket would, with its 6 remaining counterparts, be able to restore him to his youth. For all his power and knowledge, that was the one thing that the great Demon King couldn't do on his own. However, that knowledge and the aura emanating from the Dragon Ball disgusted King Piccolo to his core. There were no doubts at all in King Piccolo's mind, the Dragon Balls had been made by him. That being's accursed aura clung to the Dragon Ball like flies over a dead body. It was only the fact that killing him would mean his own death that had stayed the Demon King's hand last time. For a moment, King Piccolo wondered if he should use the Dragon Balls to sever the link he shared with him. After all, he still had a few more decades left and his minions would be more than enough to take care of the martial artists in this day and age. After considering it very carefully, King Piccolo decided to simply stick with his original wish and then to destroy the eternal dragon that was going to restore his youth. King Piccolo quickly figured that if it was possible to sever his bond with that being with the Dragon Balls, then that creature would have done it during his captivity. Despite how, that damned hypocrite pretended to be, that thing hated him as much as he hated it. That was the only thing they could agree on. Mai's voice came across the intercom, disturbing King Piccolo's thoughts. Attention everyone, the fortress will be landing shortly to take on fuel. We will be on the ground for 3 hours to collect the necessary water to power the ship. During this time, all passengers are welcome to leave the ship and stretch their legs if they wish. King Piccolo rolled his eyes in annoyance at the foolish mortal's prattle. Like any of his spawn were going to go, stretch their legs. Those tools only moved and even existed because he willed them so. Still, at least he could respect the mortal's loyalty to her duty, even if it was to a pipsqueak moron with an ego far bigger than it should be. That was why he tolerated the mortals on this vessel and was even seriously considering letting them live once they had outlived their usefulness. Perhaps he was getting sentimental in his old age. But then again, it wasn't like those 3 were a threat to him even now. About half an hour later, King Piccolo was once again disturbed from his meditation. Except, this time it wasn't because of Mai's annoying voice, but because of an explosion rocking the ship. King Piccolo quickly looked around with his key senses and detected 4 powerful people. Great, just what he did not need. A squad of martial artists who had obviously been sent to hunt him down. For the first time since his release, King Piccolo felt fear. None of the powers he sensed were strong enough to challenge him, even in his weakened state. But they were attacking just the same. Could it be that one of them knew of the Mafuba? Who's to say that the man who sealed him in that thrice-damned rice cook hadn't passed along the secrets before he died? That's why he had Tambourine out hunting the martial artists who participated in the Tenkaichi Budokai. King Piccolo checked on where the intruders were and frowned. The weaker two were making mincemeat out of piano while the stronger two were heading towards him. Quickly making up his mind, King Piccolo swallowed his Dragon Ball and began to create another minion. He just couldn't chance those two beating him as a team given his current state. The egg housing King Piccolo's newest minion was spat out just as Tien and Goku entered the throne room. Tien's face started turning green and he muttered to himself, "I think I'm going to be sick." Goku quickly sprung into action by racing towards the egg and punching his fist into it. The young Saiyan made a twisting motion with his arm. A mere seconds later a sickening snap was heard. King Piccolo and Tien watched in shock as Goku pulled his arm out of the egg along with a severed and crushed head. He then dropped the minion's head on the floor and coldly stared at King Piccolo. "This is our fight. No minions are allowed. You're going to pay for causing Chi-Chi's death." Tien started to bawl away as Goku's ki started to visibly glow. This didn't make any sense to Tien. How could Goku's power have increased so much from his match in the finals? He knew that Goku hadn't been holding back during the finals, so where was all of this power coming from? What Tien didn't know about was Goku's natural Saiyan ability to get stronger after every near-death encounter. Down in hell, Master Krillin was being informed about that little fact by some of Goku's relatives as they played the classic party game of Blow the Moron Up. King Piccolo and Goku quickly began mixing it up as they started a no-holds-bar fist fight in the throne room. Tien, quickly seeing that he was outclassed, had ducked into the corridor leading into the throne room waiting for a chance to help Goku out. Tien watched as the duo completely trashed the place trying to bash each other's brains in. At one point, Goku even used the egg of the minion he had killed as a shield while King Piccolo was in the middle of slamming his throne on Goku's head. In hindsight, using the egg as a shield was not the smartest move Goku could have made. King Piccolo was very clear on that count as he yelled out, "You insufferable mortal! How dare you touch the shell of my minion?" King Piccolo shot two small beams from his eyes which Goku barely managed to dodge. Tien watched with ever-increasing worry as Goku and King Piccolo continued to battle with ki attacks intermixed with their fists and feet. Soon enough, the problem dawned on Tien. Goku wasn't fighting with all of his skill. The rage and sudden boost in power had cut Goku's skill in half if not even more. A demonic grin appeared on King Piccolo's face that only grew larger as the duo fought. Tien felt a chill run down his spine realizing that the Demon King knew he had the upper hand in both power and skill. Tien shouted out, "Get your head together Goku or he'll kill you." Goku turned his head towards Tien in surprise, causing the battle lust to stop clouding his mind. Unfortunately for him, King Piccolo never thought that an opportunity was too good to pass up in battle. King Piccolo slammed his fist into Goku's gut with enough force to crack the Saiyan's armor. King Piccolo immediately picked the stunned Goku up by the tail, spun him around, and then threw him at a wall with enough force to throw Goku out of the ship. The Demon King smirked at Tien, and then fired a destruction wave through the hole in the wall hitting Goku. "What are you going to do, boy? That rude brat was your strongest warrior and I killed him like the trash that he is." Tien slid into a defensive stance and refused to let the Demon King's comments get to him. Goku had let his rage get in the way of the plan he had crafted to take this monster out. Tien refused to do the same. Eyeing the recently created exit, Tien figured that it was in the general direction of where Roshi was powering up. All he needed to do was send King Piccolo through that exit. King Piccolo and Tien now started to fight a battle very differently from the one Goku and the Demon King had been locked in just moments ago. Tien wasn't trying to beat King Piccolo and was constantly avoiding his attacks. While Tien was trying to avoid all of the attacks, more blows connected than he had anticipated. The Triclops was thankful for his brutal training under Tao. It allowed him to maneuver King Piccolo while making it look like he was being maneuvered. Finally, Tien got to the critical part of his plan and braced himself as King Piccolo punched him into a wall. A smirk appeared on King Piccolo's face as he stared down at the battered and bruised Tien. He gave Tien a quick kick in the stomach which caused Tien to cry out in pain, and then the Demon King laughed. "Oh, the irony, you foolish mortals thought that you could vanquish me like the martial artists of the bygone age. However, those annoying ants slaved away for decades in order to create a technique to seal me away. A technique which you don't have. Any last words before I kill you? Tien smirked and replied, just this, try beam ha. Behind Tien's back, the Triclops's hands were positioned in a triangle. Using the force of his attack, Tien rocketed towards King Piccolo and gave him a powerful kick with both his feet. The kick sent King Piccolo flying out the hole that Goku had been sent through. Tien collapsed on the ground, about a foot away from the entrance, and was completely exhausted from putting everything he had into that kick. The last thing Tien saw before he closed his eyes was the blue glow of a massive Kamehameha wave flying directly towards King Piccolo. Goku opened his eyes to find that he was lying on the back bench of a capsule cargo plane. Krillin walked over to Goku and called out, "Hey buddy, welcome back from Dreamland." The young Saiyan sat up and quickly noticed that his armor was gone. Krillin saw the question in Goku's eyes and nodded to a crate on the other side of the plane. "Master Rose, I took that armor of yours off so you could rest easier. It's pretty banged up, but if it wasn't for that armor of yours you would be with Chi-Chi now. Where did you get it anyway?" Master Roshi could NT recognize it, and he's seen a lot of different sets of armors over his lifetime. A scowl appeared on Goku's face and he briskly replied, "It's an heirloom from my birth kin." Krillin was shocked to hear Goku mention his blood relatives. As far as he had known, Goku had been left in the woods as a baby only to be found by Goku's grandfather. Part of Krillin wanted to ask Goku about what he had learned about his birth family. But the look in the young Saiyan's eyes killed those questions before they could form on his tongue. Goku got off the bench and walked up towards the front of the plane. He spotted Roshi at the controls and bowed his head at Roshi's back. "Master Roshi, I want to apologize for letting my anger at King Piccolo get the better of me. I hope that we were able to win in spite of my lack of control." Roshi sighed and replied, "Don't worry Goku, you didn't do anything wrong. Even the best warriors can lose their cool when someone they care about has been hurt or killed by someone. However, you've done two very important things that separate you from other people who have made this mistake. First, you recognize the mistake and knowing you won't make it again. Secondly, you ensured with your plan that your mission could still be achieved even though you lost your wits." His trademark smile returned to Goku's face when he heard the last bit of Roshi's speech. "So Master Roshi, does that mean that we won?" Unseen by Goku, Roshi's solemn face frowned. "No Goku, King Piccolo is still alive. The plan worked perfectly except for one thing, human error. I was so busy concentrating on gathering all my power that I barely noticed when Tien sent King Piccolo into the air. I hastily fired the Kamehameha wave I had been preparing and only took off his arm and part of his shoulder. Such a blow would have killed a normal man, but the Demon King was able to regenerate his damaged body good as new. I was too exhausted and could only watch as King Piccolo fled. He area obviously worried that we might have another fighter to challenge him." Goku slipped into the co-pilot's seat and looked out at the dawn sky from the plane's cockpit. After a few seconds Goku said, "Master Roshi, do you think that we should train some more before facing King Piccolo again, or are we going at this the wrong way? If you had asked me that question before the tournament Goku, I would have said that we had no chance against King Piccolo. However, we nearly beat him, which is something I never dreamed was possible before. Although we lost the element of surprise, I have full confidence that we can defeat King Piccolo one and for all in good time. We just need to do some more training to truly prepare ourselves. Unless you happen to have something else in that other world why bag of tricks you have that can give us an edge." Goku's eyes bulged in shock. "How did you know?" Roshi's eyes lit up with mischievous mirth. "Come now Goku, surely you didn't think that your grandfather was completely silent on your origins. He confessed everything to me in order to ensure that someone was around who could help you if anything happened to him. I helped him file all the necessary paperwork so that he was your legal guardian. I was also able to call in some old favors that ensured no social workers ever came after you when your grandfather died. I had my sister check up on you from time to time back before you met Bulma to make sure you were doing all right. My original plan after Gohan died was to simply let you live on Gohan's estate at peace and alone. No offense, but I figured a happy life by yourself would be better than constantly having to hide yourself because of your unusual nature. The young Saiyan nodded his head, accepting and understanding what Roshi had told him. There was a moment of silence before Chiatsu entered the cockpit. Master Roshi and Goku, Bulma is on the videophone. She stated that they just got the 6th Dragon Ball. The trio quickly left the cockpit to talk with Bulma. Roshi paused just long enough to put the plane on autopilot. Bulma was smiling as the trio entered the videocam's view. Hey guys, we've got the 6 remaining Dragon Balls. All we need is the one that was stolen from Goku and we're set to bring back Chi-Chi. Goku's face lost most of its normal joy and settled on an expression of cold seriousness. We don't have the Dragon Ball. King Piccolo managed to escape from us, so be on your guard. The sounds of an explosion on Bulma's end abruptly cut Goku off in mid-sentence. Bulma wasn't paying any attention to the GUYS anyone as she looked around to try and find the source of the explosion. Muted cries of agony and diabolical laughter could faintly be heard over the videophone. Roshi backed out. Turn off the phone and hide Bulma. It's got to be King Piccolo. The fear was clear as daylight in Bulma's eyes as she turned off the videophone. Roshi turned off the monitor on his end and turned to face the younger martial artists. There's nothing we can do now but pray. Goku, I want you use that device of yours to check King Piccolo's power once the sky turns black. With luck, it will increase. Krillin shouted. What? Why the hell would you want that monster to get even stronger? Roshi raised an eyebrow and calmly replied, I can think of only 2 possible things that a creature like the Demon King could wish for. Immortality or the return of his youth. If he becomes young again, his power will undoubtedly increase. However, even a far stronger opponent is better in this situation than an opponent that can't be killed. Roshi's words hit home as the sky turned pitch black, signaling that somewhere in the world, Shenlong was being summoned. For 2 nerve-fraying hours, the Dragon Ball gang's finest warriors flew towards the location that Bulma had called them at, not knowing what they would find. The scene that greeted the warriors was heart-wrenching. Oolong and Puar were left skewered on the plane's antenna. Yamcha's corpse had a basketball-sized hole in his chest. The burnt wood and the giant skeleton marked where Ox King fell. Bulma was alive, but had been left badly hurt in the plane wreckage. Launch was alive, having gone to the woods for a bathroom break before King Piccolo attacked, but she was stuck in a catatonic state because her good side witnessed such barbarity. However, the most terrifying sight was the 7 stone balls lying in the sand that could only be the Dragon Balls. The warriors quickly gathered their surviving comrades. Tien led Launch back to Roshi's cargo plane. Goku and Krillin made a makeshift stretcher to bring Bulma into the plane. Chiatsu collected the inactive Dragon Balls while Roshi took upon himself the grim task of burying everyone. Once everyone's tasks were completed, the remaining members of the Dragon Ball gang took off for the land of Corin. Goku had been the one to suggest going to Corin. They could get Bulma healed with a senzu and get some advice from the old feline master at the same time. After that 5-hour plane ride, Goku used the Kintoon to carry Launch and Bulma up to Corin. Everyone else followed up the tower by climbing it and reached the top an hour later. By that time, Goku and Corin had gotten the girls healed, put to bed, and Corin had been fully apprised of the situation. Corin frowned into his teacup as he looked around at the other warriors gathered at his table. This is a very serious matter now that King Piccolo has been restored to his youth. As you were coming here, I saw that he has already taken over the eastern capital. No doubt, he will soon force the king to hand over the throne of the planet to him. The question is, how do we proceed? Krillin looked at Corin and asked, couldn't you train Tien, Chiatsu? And I like you did, Goku. I mean, wouldn't it be a step in the right direction to have the 3 of us become more powerful? The white cat shook his head. I'm afraid my training wouldn't do much for you 3. The sacred water that the people of this land talk about is merely a gimmick I created to train people in speed, relaxes, endurance, and coping with fighting in the thin atmosphere that being so high up creates. At your current levels, the sacred water training I gave Goku would produce very little real gain. Tien frowned and then added his 2 zeni. How was King Piccolo sealed in the first place? I mean, if it's been done once, it can be done again. Roshi quickly spoke up. My master sealed King Piccolo away using the Mafuba. I know the theory behind the technique, but I haven't practiced it in centuries because it can easily kill the user. I've thought about using it on King Piccolo, but I'm just not sure if I'd be able to get close enough to him to use it and if I could successfully seal him." Quote. Goku slammed his fist on the table, making everyone jump in shock. Sealing King Piccolo away is not the answer. That's simply leaving the problem for someone else to handle, like the situation we're in now. We need to destroy him once and for all. Corin nodded his head. Well said, young Goku. However, there is a vast difference between saying something and doing something. King Piccolo has gotten even stronger than he was before. Do you have any idea how to beat him? The young Saiyan closed his eyes and nodded his head. Yes, I do. I'll need you guys to beat me up within an inch of my life. Use the Senzu to heal me, and then repeat the process until I'm at least as strong as King Piccolo. Tien, Krillin, Chiatsu, and Corin all screamed out, "What are you thinking, Goku?" Roshi raised both his eyebrows in wonder. Such a training system wouldn't help a human at all. But, since Goku wasn't human, could it be different for whatever race he was? Gee. Goku took a sip of his tea to calm his nerves. Now wasn't the time for secrets. I'm not human, guys. Unlike you, I have the ability to get stronger after every near-death encounter I live through. It's what allowed me to get so much stronger than Tien after the finals when Master Crane tried to kill me. Before the finals, our power was almost the same. We can use that ability to make me strong enough to beat King Piccolo. Also, we do have my Uzaru form to unleash, since I very much doubt he'll be suspecting a trick like that. To the other martial artist's surprise, Roshi quickly spoke up. Goku, what about your natural limits? Your grandfather never found much information on your race's abilities. What if your ability to get stronger after every near-death experience simply gets you closer to your potential ceiling quicker? Or worse, what if you trade some power now by lowering your ultimate potential? Krillin made a timeout gesture with his hands. Hold the phone, you mean Goku isn't pulling our legs with that not human line? In reply, Goku had his tail wave back and forth like a charmed snake. He then pointed to his tail and said, "Why do you think I have a tail and turn in to a giant ape whenever I look at a full moon?" Krillin fell face first onto the table, signaling his defeat. Goku then turned to Roshi and replied, "Don't worry, Master Roshi, there isn't any such ceiling to worry about. Anyone can get stronger if they have the will and put in the effort. My race's abilities simply allow them to get stronger faster. That's one of the main facts I learned about my race from my spacepod." Trying to bring the conversation back to the matter at hand, Corin said, "I have another possibility. I have an elixir known as the Ultra Divine Water. Unlike my sacred water gimmick, this stuff is the real thing. It can bring out a person's potential that would take years, sometimes decades of intense training to achieve. However, there is a catch. The Ultra Divine Water is so a powerful poison that tries to kill a person as a result of bringing out a person's potential. Only someone with tremendous strength and a will to live can survive the process and have their potential unleashed. I've witnessed 14 powerful warriors take the Ultra Divine Water and all of them died. The previous gate guard before me told me that she had witnessed 20 people take the water and only one person lived." Before a morbid silence could descend on the group, Goku jumped up and thumped his chest. "I'll take the Ultra Divine Water, Corin. Can you pour me a cup?" Tien turned to Goku and replied, "Are you serious, Goku? 33 people who drank the Ultra Divine Water have died." Goku gave the Triclopes his patented grin and replied, "But you're forgetting that one person survived. That means that there's a chance this will work, and as long as there's a chance of getting strong enough to stop King Piccolo from hurting innocent people, I have to pursue it." Krillin looked down for a few seconds and then firmly looked at everyone. "I'll have a glass of the Ultra Divine Water as well. I'm not going to let Goku go this alone. Besides, if he doesn't make it, I might get lucky and get the strength to beat King Piccolo. After all, there is a chance." One by one, each of the fighters stated that they'd take their chances with the Ultra Divine Water. After seeing the resolve in their eyes, Corin left to retrieve the elixir. He returned a few minutes later with a tea kettle and 6 cups. The cat saw the looks everyone was sending him and calmly replied, "If you're all taking a shot at this, I figure I might as well try this stuff again. Hopefully, I won't need to spit it out like last time." Corin then set the teacups down and filled them. Roshi took his cup like he was making a toast and said, Well guys, I just have this to say. May we all get strong enough to beat King Piccolo. Failing that, let's just hope we meet some hot chicks on the other side, bottoms up. With that said, everyone chugged down their cup of the ultra-divine water and fell to the floor in agony as it began to work. Bulma groggily woke up as the sun started to shine on Corin's tower. For a few seconds the young genius wondered where she was and then started shivering as the memories of King Piccolo's assault rushed at her. It was only because of her memories of being rescued by everyone that stopped Bulma from breaking down in tears. King Piccolo wasn't here. Goku and the other guys would have to have taken to someplace safe. After taking a few minutes to calm her nerves, Bulma looked around the room trying to figure out where she was. Wherever she was, it wasn't one of the gang's normal hangouts. The Spartan room reminded her of a monastery. Must be some place Goku had wandered by over the years. After all, how could Roshi know about a monastery, let alone be let in? The old perv would probably set off every evil ward at a temple with his lecherousness. Bulma got out of bed and grumbled for a few seconds about sleeping in a bloody and torn outfit. She only half-heartedly grumbled since it wasn't like she wanted any of the guys to change her. The young genius pulled out a capsule, used it to bring out her emergency wardrobe and spa set, and spent the next hour cleaning up and refreshing herself. Occasionally, Bulma would glance over at the bed Launch was resting on with concern. Part of Bulma W.I. shed that evil Launch had been around to see King Piccolo's attack. At least then, good Launch wouldn't have to have seen such a sight. Nice Launch was simply too innocent to deal with such a sight. Once Bulma was fixed up, she left the room and began to wander around trying to find everyone. The first room she passed was full of pots stuffed with beans. Next was obviously the room that Tien and Chiatsu had claimed, since the crane emblem could be seen poking out one of the packs. She then passed Roshi's room and after that Corin's bedroom, although she didn't know who it belonged to. The last room that Bulma passed was Goku and Krillin's bedroom. A gleam of light caught Bulma's eyes and she quickly saw that it was the sunlight reflecting off of Goku's scouter. Curiosity ensnared Bulma and she quickly walked over and picked the scouter up off of Goku's bag. Bulma carefully put the scouter on like she remembered Goku doing and turned it on. The scouter quickly detected the 6 warriors on the upper level of the tower's temple. However, Bulma just scratched her head. What's going on? How was Goku able to use this device? It's obviously working, but this isn't any alphabet I've ever seen. The young genius turned the scouter off and started digging in Goku's bag. Normally, she wouldn't have violated her friend's privacy like this. However, things weren't making much sense to Bulma, and she needed to get to the bottom of things. She quickly found a notebook and opened it, half expecting to find Goku's journal. The notebook was filled with technical sketches of the scouter with a LL of the notes written in the same language Bulma saw on the scouter screen. As she flipped through the pages, she saw more sketches on a number of items, including the armor she had seen Goku wear and of all things a spacebot. What was Goku up to? Bulma put down the handwritten technical guide and spotted another notebook in Goku's bag. Slightly hesitant, but still extremely curious, Bulma picked it up and started to leaf through it. There was more of that strange writing, but this book also had normal writing she could read. Bulma read down the list and whispered out, "Oh my god." This notebook was nothing more than conversion tables for finding the materials needed in the first notebook. For those materials which didn't have a human-made counterpart, Goku had written instructions for how to make the materials out of what was available. Like a light bulb turning on, everything fell into place for Bulma. Goku's tail, his strange ability to turn into a giant monkey, the weird blood work hat the doctor had mentioned before Roshi hypnotized him, and the strange technology he had which included plans for a spaceship. It could only mean one thing: Goku had to be an alien. After getting over that shock, Bulma quickly decided that it didn't really matter what Goku was. The planet was currently being attacked by a demon from a bygone era, so what was so strange about an alien being on the planet? Besides, Goku was a better friend than a lot of humans she could name. The sound of a groan coming from the hallway caused Bulma to hurriedly put everything back the way she had found it. She then left Goku and Krillin's room following the sounds of the moaning and groaning. Bulma quickly reached the temple's main open-air hall and saw everyone lying around clutching their stomachs in pain. After blinking in confusion, Bulma spotted a cup that still had a few drops of ultra-divine water. She picked up the cup and briefly tasted the ultra-divine water before spitting it out. What the hell? Were you guys trying to commit mass suicide by poisoning and botched the job up? As if by cue, Goku's eyes opened up and he let out a primal roar. Visible ki started to flare from the young Saiyan. And then the air started to crackle around him with power. The hairs on the back of Bulma's neck stood straight up and she backed away in fear. One by one, the other fighters awoke and followed Goku's lead, letting their new powers flare. Several minutes of chatting and one breakfast later, everyone in the tower including Launch was up and ready to figure out what they would do. Finally Corin took over and said, "The ultra-divine water did what it was supposed to do. Chiatsu and Krillin are near Roshi's old strength. Tien has enough power that he could have killed King Piccolo by himself before the Demon King's youth was restored. Roshi and I both have enough power to challenge King Piccolo even though he is still more powerful than us. As for Goku, your power is almost as much above King Piccolo's power as his is above Roshi and me. Quote, still, even with the power we now have we cannot rush in to beat King Piccolo. As hard as it may be to accept, we all need some time to adjust to our new powers. The problem is that in the time it will take us to train King Piccolo will undoubtedly have recreated his demonic army." Goku quickly spoke up, "I'll be able to take care of his army. King Piccolo created several new soldiers last night and all of them were around Chi-Chi's killer in power level. I can go Uzaru and decimate any army that's sent against me at that power level." Goku paused long enough to look Corin and Roshi both in the eyes. "I'm being completely serious. My Uzaru state is usually supposed to be used to against large masses of enemies or someone who's far too powerful for me to beat in my normal state." Roshi nodded his head accepting what Goku told everyone. "Well, that solves what to do about the demonic army. If necessary, Corin and I can double team King Piccolo if Goku is too worn out to fight. It would probably be best if the rest of you were to either help Goku clear out the demon army or to hang back and attack King Piccolo if Corin and I fail to kill him. After all, he should be weakened to the point in such a scenario where any of you could kill him. We can finalize any plans for our assault during our training." Tien then said, "It sounds like we have a plan that will work. Still, is there anything we can do to increase the odds in our favor? We are dealing with the fate of the planet here." Bulma hesitantly spoke up. "I could make you all some suits of armor like Goku had. Provided Goku hands me the instructions and helps with some of the translation. I saw part of the instructions in one of your books, Goku." Not really bothered at the idea of Bulma snooping around. Or perhaps it was simply some residual naivety left in him, Goku grinned. "That's great Bulma, my armor really saved my bacon when King Piccolo attacked me. If it hadn't been for that armor I would have ended up like Yamcha." Things were quickly settled by the Dragon Ball gang. Bulma would leave for one of Capsule Corp's auxiliary labs with copies of Goku's notes relating to his armor in order to make new armor for everyone. All of the fighters left for the Yunzabit Heights so they could train with the least probability of being detected by King Piccolo. Launch went with them as the group cook. It was agreed that they'd all meet back at Corin's tower in a week to launch the assault. Originally, Roshi wanted to have 14 days of training, but King Piccolo's decision to blow up a city to celebrate his ascension as king of the world cut down the training time. 1 week later, Earth's unknown team of heroes was being flown towards the newly renamed Pandemonium City to take out King Piccolo. All of the fighters were dressed in armor that looked almost exactly like something that would become very fashionable on Yardrat in the next decade. However, Bulma's armor included armor for both shoulders, boots, greaves, and vambraces. Bulma had also been able to improve the formula for the composites that made the armor, granting them twice the resistance to key attacks that Goku's old armor. Bulma dropped the fighters off by one of the camps that the former residents of Eastern Capital had set up after being driven from the city. The plane took off as soon as the fighters were off so that Bulma could go some ways away to set up the moon projector she had built. Fuzzy, the now former king of Earth, was the first to approach the 6 warriors. "What are you men doing here?" Roshi turned to Fuzzy and bowed his head. "King Fuzzy, we're here to put an end to King Piccolo." A look of panic filled Fuzzy's face. Please sirs, I beg of you to flee. I don't have any doubts that you are all strong men, but King Piccolo's power is beyond your imagination. For your own sakes, please leave and find somewhere to hide so that you can be safe. Corin stepped forward, drawing a lot of people's attention to the fact that a cat was wearing battle armor. With all due respect, Your Highness, we know exactly what we're facing. Everyone I'm with has fought against King Piccolo before trying to prevent this deplorable situation from ever happening and nearly was able to stop it. King Piccolo was only able to narrowly escape with his life, and we're all much stronger now than we were before. King Piccolo was defeated once long ago and he's about to be defeated again. Just as Corin finished speaking, a projection of the full moon appeared in the sky. Krillin took one look at the projection and grinned. All right Goku, do your thing and send these demons back to hell. Fuzzy and the other nearby residents of the refuge camp watch in awe and amazement as Goku transformed into his Uzaru state. Goku roared out, King Piccolo, we're coming for you. He then launched a ki blast from his mouth into the city, blowing up a city block and a den of King Piccolo's minions. The 5 remaining warriors quickly jumped up and climbed aboard Goku's Kaju-like frame. As soon as everyone was aboard, Goku smashed through the city wall like a kid running through a stack of foam blocks. Pandemonium City instantly went from being demon capital of the world to insanity capital of the world as Goku went to town like Godzilla on Tokyo. The Uzaru Saiyan was throwing skyscrapers at supersonic speeds towards his enemies and creating massive craters with his mouth blast attack. King Piccolo's spawn were dying in droves by Goku's hands as the city's remaining gas mains exploded, creating a fiery inferno. Occasionally, one of the marital artists on the Goku Express train to hell would take care of a demon spawn or two that managed to survive when Goku took out a cluster. However, that didn't happen very often as Goku was very thorough in his extermination of the minion pest. Up in the World Palace, King Piccolo gazed upon Goku's monstrous form with fear. How can this be? How could this pathetic planet give rise to a being so much more powerful than me? Not even King Piccolo's pride could protect him from the pure unadulterated power radiating from Goku. The Uzaru glanced at the palace, opened his mouth, and fired a beam right next to the palace, taking out minion breeding facility King Piccolo had created. After all, he wasn't about to spend all his time making EGs and had created a few minions who could spawn others. Now, they were all deep fried. Hidden on Goku's shoulders, Krillin watched in awe as Goku continued destroying the city and the minions. After shooting down a rogue minion, Krillin called out to Corin, "This is insane. How can Goku keep on generating so much power? I mean, I know this form gives him 10 times his normal power, but shouldn't he be losing some steam?" Corin deflected some debris with his cane and quickly shot back. I believe this form also increases Goku's ability to regenerate his energy as well as increasing it. Besides, I think Goku is also drawing in energy from the false moon somehow. I've noticed that Goku looks at it from time to time and felt his energy rise a bit afterwards. On the other shoulder, Tien was shooting low-level Dodonpas at several wounded minions. No need to let them heal and attack later. Chiatsu had his eyes closed and was telepathically talking with Goku and using Goku's eye to see. Chiatsu was using his telekinetic powers to slow down minions from spreading out whenever Goku targeted a bunch. Thanks to Chiatsu and Goku's teamwork, only a few minions were getting through. Back in the palace, King Piccolo knew he needed to do something or he'd be destroyed by Goku. His pride in his strength and his rage at this insurrection didn't matter to him. All that mattered was finding a way to beat the beast challenging him. Suddenly, an idea came to the Demon King. Stretching out his arms, King Piccolo mentally called to his remaining minions, "My servants. Give me your energy so that I'd slay this beast and avenge our comrades." All across Pandemonium City, the surviving minions shriveled up and dropped to the ground as they sent all their energy to King Piccolo. Goku blinked his eyes in confusion as he felt the strands of energy start to converge on the palace. What was going on? Suddenly Roshi called out form on top of Goku's head. "It's King Piccolo, he's getting stronger." As soon as Roshi said this, King Piccolo broke through the palace roof, gaining admittance to the Kaju Club. King Piccolo used the energy from his remaining minions to grow in stature and power until he rivaled Goku's Uzaru form. He glared at Goku and called out, "Now you will see why it's useless to challenge the Demon King." Thanks to Chiatsu, Goku and the other warriors were able to change tactics. Goku and King Piccolo quickly got into a martial arts match with the city as their ring. At the same time, everyone who had previously been on Goku jumped ship and like parasites seeking a new host landed on King Piccolo. While getting tossed around like a wrestler in a cage match, King Piccolo quickly discovered that it is very hard to fight when you have 5 comparatively insect-sized GHTERS climbing all over you, insisting on being pains in the butt. In Roshi's case, he was literally a pain in the butt when he fired a Kamehameha wave into King Piccolo's ass. For 10 minutes Goku and King Piccolo brawled in the now ruined city. While King Piccolo was able to get several good hits in, Goku was clearly dominating their battle. Ever since the battle started, Goku had been the more powerful warrior and he had far more experience in fighting as a giant. His friend's constant interference merely rigged the match for him. Finally, Goku wore King Piccolo down to a point where he could finish him. Everyone abandoned the Demon King as Goku grabbed King Piccolo's leg and tossed him into the air. Unknown to Goku, news helicopters had been recording his battle with King Piccolo, transmitting the footage throughout the world. All across the globe, people huddled by their TVs praying that Goku would deliver them from King Piccolo's tyranny. Thanks to high-powered microphones, everyone heard as Goku began to chant out the Kamehameha wave and watched as he shot the massive beam into the air at King Piccolo. The Kamehameha wave struck King Piccolo dead on, vaporizing his legs, almost all of his chest, and most of his arms before it continued on into space. Everyone around the world broke out into cheers as what remained of King Piccolo's body shrunk and stated to fall back to Earth. However, no one, not even Goku or his companions, noticed that King Piccolo wasn't quite dead yet. With his dying breath, King Piccolo made one last egg and shot it off over the horizon. The Demon King died with a smirk on his face. Let these foolish mortals have their victory, was his final thought, because in the end his son would avenge him. It took the Dragon Ball gang almost 10 hours to return to Corin Tower after King Piccolo's death. Apparently, people were eager to swarm the man who had saved them from a tyrant who had caused more destruction in 1 week than any 3 previous kings had done in their entire reigns combined. Luckily, Bulma was able to bail Goku's fat out of the fire by first getting him to vocally claim Capsule Corporation as his sponsor. With that information, she was able to tell all of the reporters to take it up with the Public Relations Department of CC. Even though the group had been able to fend off the vultures that were masquerading as reporters, they weren't able to fend off the well-wishers. In all honesty, it was almost impossible to resist the heartfelt thanks of the camp dwellers. The now restored King Fuzzy quickly ordered a party to celebrate King Piccolo's defeat. This resulted in a 3-hour delay for the Dragon Ball gang and Uzaru-sized headaches when they woke up the next morning at the tower. Once the living dead were fully revived, the Dragon Ball gang was gathered around Corin's dinner table trying to figure out what they should do next. Bulma glanced over at the box holding the 7 stone Dragon Balls and sighed. "I guess we're just going to have to wait a year until we can revive Yamcha and the others." Corin frowned and solemnly said, "Things aren't that simple. The Dragon Balls aren't supposed to remain in the area where Shenlong has been summoned after granting a wish. I've examined a Dragon Ball after a wish was granted once long ago and I can tell you that something very wrong has happened. Even in stone form, the Dragon Balls are supposed to have a series of magical protections on them that prevent them from being damaged. I can faintly sense these protections emanating from the Dragon Balls, but as almost like the protections have been turned off. Who knows what caused this or if whatever caused this has affected Shenlong's powers." "What?" Krillin blurted out in shock. "You mean that Shenlong won't be able to bring back everyone?" Corin shook his head. "I never said that, Krillin. I said that something has damaged the magic protecting the Dragon Balls. Whether or not this has affected Shenlong's powers remains to be seen. But we must acknowledge the possibility that this might prevent us from reviving all of our friends." Tien frowned and said, "Surely there's a way to repair whatever damage has happened to the Dragon Balls. I know that they are mystical artifacts, but even so they must have been created somehow. If they were created then surely they can be repaired." Everyone turned to look at Corin hoping he might have some answers. The white cat frowned as he thought and then gave his answer. There is someone who would know for sure, Shenlong's creator Kami, the god of this world. After a round of gasps from everyone, Corin continued. Yes, I know this might come as a shock to you, but God really did create the Dragon Balls. Who else did you think could have made them? Since he made them, we'll have to ask Kami what is wrong with the Dragon Balls and if necessary beseech him to repair them. Coming out of her shock, Bulma asked, and just how do we do that, Corin? I mean, it's not like God's address can be looked up on a web browser. Corin grinned. Luckily, I know where God resides. His palace floats high above this tower beyond our sight. Its magic makes it impossible for it to be reached by normal methods like a plane or rocket ship unless he specifically wills it. However, we do have a method of reaching his palace. On the top of this tower is a spot where one can place the Nioi bow, and by willing it to extend the staff will take someone to Kami's lookout. That is the true purpose of the Nioi bow. The only reason I gave it to Roshi is I figured that after so long there wouldn't be a person worthy of an audience with Kami. This is because whoever journeys by this method must first have the strength to climb this tower and have a heart as pure as snow. Such a combo is almost impossible to find. Roshi quickly spoke up. What about Goku? He's proven that he doesn't have any evil in his heart and was able to climb this tower years ago. Couldn't he leave for an audience with Kami? Corin quickly nodded his head. I was just about to suggest that myself. Goku is the only one of us worthy of meeting Kami, and thus it is up to him to find out what has happened to the Dragon Balls. However, before Goku goes, I want to say this. Corin stopped for a second to look Goku in the eyes. I have one bit of advice when you visit Kami. Know that you've seen his face before, only at the time it was worn by an enemy. After an hour of constantly being attacked by thunderclouds, something that Goku wasn't expecting since Corin's tower was above the clouds, Goku finally reached Kami's lookout. Goku quickly climbed to the top of the lookout and looked out at the palace and the island gardens around it. He took a few deep breaths and muttered to himself. Strange. Why am I so winded when I haven't done anything? Suddenly a voice beside Goku spoke up. It's the thin atmosphere here. There's barely enough oxygen for a person to live, so you have to conserve every movement. Any wasteful motions will quickly leave you exhausted. Goku whipped his head around to spot Mr. Popo standing next to him. For the next hour Goku tried to see Kami, but Mr. Popo was as adamant that Goku wasn't ready to see Kami. Finally Kami decided to end the duo's little argument by coming out and meeting Goku. The young Saiyan froze as soon as Kami's face left the shadows. MLY staring back at him was the wrinkled face of King Piccolo before his youth had been restored. Goku's hands immediately turned into fists, and it was only Corin's warning that stopped Goku from attacking the Piccolo look-alike. Desperately trying to keep his battle lust in check, Goku firmly asked, Am I correct that you are Kami? Kami nodded his head. That is correct, young Goku. I am Kami, the god of this world. I see that my appearance disturbs you. Let me put your mind at ease. The reason why King Piccolo and I look alike is because once, long ago, we were the same being. Before I became the god of this world, I had too much darkness in my heart and through deep meditation was able to expel it from my being. Sadly, this darkness took on a life of its own as King Piccolo, who, much to my shame, has been a plague to the people of Earth. For a few minutes Goku just stood where he was thinking about what Kami told him. Kami's tale struck a chord deep within Goku's heart. He too struggled with an inner darkness. Only his was the darkness of what his race had become. Finally, the young Saiyan looked Kami in the eye and asked, Sir, I came here because something has happened to the Dragon Balls. My friends and I are worried that we won't be able to wish everyone back. Do you know what has happened to them? A solemn expression covered Kami's face. King Piccolo killed Shenlong after his youth was restored. In all honesty, I think it is for the best. When I made the Dragon Balls, they were supposed to be a source of hope for the people of Earth. However, they've become nothing but a source of pain as people have sought them for their own selfish desires. To Kami's surprise, Goku got on his knees and started to beg. Sir, the Dragon Balls haven't just been a source of pain. Thanks to them, a little boy has his father back that was killed in front of him. Many of my friends were able to meet and find good friends just by searching for the Dragon Balls. As for people seeking them for selfish desires, most people don't believe that the Dragon Balls exist. To them it's a comforting tale. Please Kami, can't you restore Shenlong so that all the people killed by King Piccolo can be revived? Kami looked deep into Goku's eyes and then sighed. Very well Goku, because of your selfless defense of others I shall restore Shenlong. However, your friend Bulma must hand over the Dragon Radar, and promise to never make another one unless I or the next god of Earth gives her permission. Such a device makes it too easy to gather all the Dragon Balls, making the temptation to abuse them far too great. If there ever arises a time in the future when Shenlong is needed, I will allow a champion such as yourself to use the radar to collect the Dragon Balls. For any other wish one knew. Saint search for the Dragon Balls the old-fashioned way. This is the only condition I put on Shenlong's revival. Once I have the Dragon Radar, I will revive Shenlong and we can talk about other pressing matters. Once Kami finished talking, Goku ran towards the edge of the lookout, slid down the stairs, and then free fell from the lookout with his tail wrapped so that he couldn't fall away from the Nioi bow. A little over an hour later Goku returned with a smile and the Dragon Radar in hand. He cheerfully handed it over to Kami. Here you go. Bulma says she won't make any more Dragon Radars, but is going to leave me some blueprints in case the need arises for the radar to be repaired or to make a new one. Kami nodded his head and replied, I suppose that is good enough. He then had Popo bring out Shenlong's statue and revived the dragon. Kami then said, as a favor for you Goku, I've allowed Shenlong to return to the Dragon Balls fully powered so that your friends can revive everyone now instead of waiting a year. Goku jumped up and gave Kami a hug, much to the Green God and Mr. Popo's surprise. Thank you Kami, thank you. I can't wait to see Chi-Chi, Yamcha, and everyone else again. He young Saiyan got off of Kami and was just about to turn and leave. However, Kami called out, Goku, there's something we have to talk about. Goku turned and looked at Kami. What is it sir? Kami sighed and replied, your victory over King Piccolo was not as total as you think young Goku. While you did kill King Piccolo, he had time to create one more egg before he died. This egg does not count. Ain't a mere minion like the ones you killed. Inside this egg rests King Piccolo's heir. I can sense that even now, mere hours after his birth, this son has all the power King Piccolo ever had with Ntial to grow far stronger and burning desire to avenge his father. Also, I felt as King Piccolo imparted all of his memories onto this heir so that he would know who to kill in order to avenge his father. A serious look crossed Goku's face. Why are you telling me this Kami? I'm telling you this Goku because I wish to train you to defeat King Piccolo's heir. I doubt that you will be able to that transformation of yours again in battle, since King Piccolo's memories will tell him that the moon was the key to your transformation. As you are now, you have a lot of power, but you don't know how to truly and completely control it. King Piccolo's heir will have all of his father's experience and thus far more control than you. You will need everything you can get if you are to survive. Still, there is some good news in all of this. Knowing how my darker half thought, I believe that his heir will not make a move against you or your friends until the next Tenkaichi Budokai. That will give us 3 years to train you Goku. Do you accept? Goku nodded his head and replied, when can we begin? Piccolo, having decided he might as well use his father's name, the Prince of Demons was floating in the wastelands. A scowl covered Piccolo's teenager-like face as his eyes tried to figure out where the blasted thing was hiding. Finally, luck smiled on the demon prince as sunlight started to gleam off of something in a mountain crevice. Piccolo smirked and quickly flew to the crevice. He quickly reached in and pulled out a Dragon Ball. A month ago Piccolo had stumbled upon the 5-star Dragon Ball during his training. Naturally, he had been shocked to see the gleaming Dragon Ball, knowing that his father had killed Shenlong. Once Piccolo got over his shock, he realized that this was a golden opportunity for him. The Dragon Balls were the key to his victory over Goku. With the 5-star ball in hand, the young Namekian flew off to the cave that was his temporary base. Once Piccolo arrived at the cave, he headed to the back and started digging. After a few minutes he created a 10-foot deep hole and uncovered 6 Dragon Balls. Piccolo scooped up the 6 Dragon Balls so he held the complete set and walked out of the cave. He then placed them on the ground and called out, Eternal Dragon, by your name I summon you, Shenlong. The sky darkened and the Dragon Balls glowed as Shenlong was summoned. In a deep and powerful voice the dragon said, "You who have gathered the 7 Dragon Balls, speak now your wish. I shall grant any that is within my power." Piccolo gulped as he looked up at Shenlong. Even with the memories of his father, the sight of Shenlong in the flesh was a very impressive sight for the 2.5-year-old warrior. Quickly regaining his cool, Piccolo said his wish. "My father held far more power before separating with that bastard Kami than he did afterward. I wish that I had the power my father wielded before the separation." Shenlong made a low growl before he gave his answer. "Such a thing is beyond my power. To grant you all of the power your father wielded before his separation with Kami would require the joining of both body and spirit between you and Kami. However, it is within my power to restore the power lost because of the physical separation. Is this modification of your wish acceptable or does your heart desire something else?" ASC. Owl graced Piccolo's face and he snorted. "Fine, I wish that I had the power my father lost because of his physical separation with Kami. Even a partial power-up was better than no power-up." The Eder. Null Dragon's eyes glowed and he growled out, "Your wish has been granted. Until the next summoning." With that said, Shenlong disappeared and the Dragon Balls shot off into the horizon. Piccolo blinked his eyes, not sure what had happened. For a moment, he thought that his uncle, Pet Lizard, had pulled one over on him. Then Piccolo felt something pulling on his ki reserves. To the young Namekian's surprise, he shifted to a power-up stance against his will and started drawing on his ki. All the dust and many of the nearby plants started flying into the air as a thick, white corona of ki surrounded Piccolo. With both joy and stress from the sudden power-up, Piccolo lifted his head back and defiantly roared at the heavens. Euphoria radiated from Piccolo's face clear as day. He let out a deep, almost sadistic laugh. "Oh yes, I can't believe it. This is power." Piccolo quickly glanced at a far-off mountain and decided to give his new powers a quickly test by briefly powering up a destruction wave and firing it at the mountain. A massive beam of energy burst from Piccolo's hand, flew at almost supersonic speed, and blew the mountain into oblivion. The mushroom cloud of dust caused Piccolo's eyes to bulge out and it slowly became clear that the only thing left of the once titanic mountain was a smoldering crater. Piccolo looked down at his clawed hands for a few moments in shock. He grinned and made fists out of both hands. "Oh the irony, thanks to that damnable Kami I have the power to avenge you father. I'll send Goku to hell so that you can torture him for all eternity in the afterlife." Up on the lookout, nearly 18-year-old Goku was meditating on top of one of Mr. Popo's palm trees. He was in a classic meditation pose, only Goku was meditation on his tail, which was straight as an arrow with the very tip of the tail balancing on the top of the palm tree. Suddenly Goku's eyes opened in shock and he cursed out, "Shit. Just what did he do?" Goku immediately used his tail to spring off the palm tree. He did a backflip, somersault combo, and lightly landed on the lookout. Immediately afterward, Goku ran into the palace towards Kami's throne room. The young Saiyan barged into the throne room to find Kami sitting on his throne with Mr. Popo watering one of the nearby hanging plants. "Kami, Mr. Popo, we've got a problem. Junior has somehow massively increased his power. It now rivals mine when I went Uzaru to kill King Piccolo." Kami frowned and then closed his eyes, concentrating on the life bond he shared with Piccolo. The old god never liked concentrating on the bond since it allowed him to catch glimpses of his other half's mind. About the only good thing Kami could say about concentrating on the bond he had with Piccolo was at least the boy only had an evil heart and wasn't the twisted psychotic thing his father was. This allowed Kami to stomach the connection long enough to glimpse the images of Shenlong, Piccolo powering up, and the mountain being destroyed. Quickly breaking the connection, Kami turned to face Goku and sighed. It appears that Piccolo has just used Shenlong to gain more power. At the moment he's become far more powerful than you, Goku. Will you please check to see just how much more power he has? Goku nodded his head and pulled out the capsule that held all his stuff. After the puff of smoke dissipated, Goku pulled out his scouter and put it on. He then walked over to a fountain with sparkling clear water and firmly said, "Show me Piccolo." The water of the magical fountain rippled for a few seconds as a picture of Piccolo flying over the wasteland appeared. Goku turned on his scouter and watched as it recorded Piccolo's power level. Once the number came up, Goku bit back another curse. His power's grown to 5,800. This is ridiculous. Before the wish it was only 700. Turning off the scouter, Goku whirled around to look at Kami and Mr. Popo. What are we going to do? My currently power level is only 900. And though you've taught me enough skills to fight foes much stronger than that, Piccolo's become so strong that I need to go Uzaru just to hope to beat him. The only solution I can think of is beaten myself to near death and healing until I get strong enough. However, between all of the beatings and the power increase I'd lose much of the skill I've gained over the past 2 years and won't have enough time to retrain before the tournament. Kami walked up to Goku and gently put a withered green hand on Goku's shoulder. Relax, Goku, things aren't as bad as they seem. Piccolo might have become more powerful, but you can still beat him with your transformation. Still, it would be better if you were around his power level without transforming. I have an idea that may just solve this problem for us. Wait here while I go talk with my superiors. Once Kami left the room, Goku turned and asked Mr. Popo, superiors, who can be above God? Mr. Popo smiled and quickly replied, higher gods of course. Kami's powers as god are great, but they are limited to the living realm of Earth. Planetary gods such as Kami are actually quite numerous, as each life-giving planet has its own god. Above the planetary gods are the gods of the afterlife who watch over sections of the galaxy. These beings each control a check-in station in the afterlife where the spirits of the dead go for judgment. All the planets in a sector share the same check-in station, and thus, all the planetary gods of the sector are under the rule of the gatekeeper god of the section who rules the check-in station. King Yama rules the check-in station. Earth belongs to and is Kami's immediate boss. In turn, King Yama and the other check-in gods report to one of the Kaio. There are 4 Kaio and each of them is in charge of a quadrant of the galaxy. Earth lies in the northern quadrant, meaning that the Kaio King Yama reports as King Kai. In a way we are lucky because word through the grapevine is that King Kai is the most responsible Kaio when it comes to his duties, even if he is supposed to be a lousy comedian. Finally, at least what I know for certain, the 4 Kaios are ruled by the Dai Kaio, who is also Samati. Mies called the Grand Kai during less formal occasions. The Dai Kaio is the highest divine authority ruling over the entire galaxy. It's believed that the other galaxies share the same or a similar structure. But I don't have enough information to say the truth about that one way or another. Goku nodded his head and mentally filed Mr. Popo impromptu lecture away for future reference. Almost every second that Goku hadn't spent training for his upcoming battle seemed to be filled with lectures on what the duties of a planetary god were. Much to Goku's surprise, he was sometimes even given hands-on challenges, like the time Kami had him create a storm to water some plains that were suffering from a drought, or the time when he had to choose which volcano was going to erupt. That last task was not fun at all, since the choice was between an island that was the only home of a rare planet with powerful medicinal properties and an island with thousands of people. Goku had shocked Kami with Byakuing his little Kobayashi Maru by collecting samples of the plant and then having the volcano on its island blow the young Saiyan plane to re-establish the plant on its island once things settled down. About an hour after Kami had left, Earth's god returned to his throne room with a confident smile on his face. Goku, I've found a solution to our problem. King Yama has allowed the soul of a fight far stronger than Piccolo to return for one day to help train you. Now, I know that a day doesn't allow the kind of time needed to get that strong. However, some negotiation with King Yama has allowed us to stretch that time by allowing you two to use the Room of Spirit and Time for 12 hours. This will give you 6 months with your trainer while not technically breaking King Yama's rule out the dead, only having a single day in Realm of the Living. Goku nodded his head, accepting what Kami just told him. He then asked, who did you get to train me? Is the person a hero from the past? Kami shook his head. Not exactly, Goku. Our situation meant that I didn't have much selection to choose from. You're actually quite lucky that an officer of the Hell Guard was delivering a report to King Yama and volunteered to help you. Goku frowned and nodded his head at this point. The Hell Guard was made of the noble damned warrior souls who went to hell for their sins, but weren't corrupt enough that they couldn't be trusted. These former mercenaries and blood knights were used by King Yama as riot police when Hell's residents got too rowdy. Seeing that Goku accepted everything that was happening, Kami motioned for someone to step into the room. Goku's eyes widened in shock and horror as the figure moved into view. Kami had an almost sadistic grin on his face as he said, "Goku, allow me to introduce your sensei for the next 6 months. This is Tribune Bardock of the Hell Guard, your father." Bardock glanced at his son's shocked face hiding his pride. The boy had done well for himself over the years. No Saiyan had ever grown as strong as Kakarot had, living on such an insignificant planet and only fighting such weak foes. Not even first-class Saiyans could boast of such potential that Kakarot's current power whispered at, and the boy had only begun to unlock the power he was destined to wield. Knowing what needed to be done, Bardock gave his son a smug, egotistical smirk. "What's a matter, Kakarot? Don't you want to spend time with your old man?" Goku's eyes narrowed in cold fury and he hissed out, "My name is Goku. There's no one here that goes by Kakarot." The smirk on Bardock's face grew wider and he waved a finger like he was admonishing a toddler. "Oh no, kiddo, your birth records clearly show that your name is Kakarot, not Goku. Pretend all you want, Kakarot, but your name stays as your harpy of a mother left it unless you can convince me otherwise. Of course, the fact that I have to leave hell to train you in order to keep you from getting in over your head doesn't make that convincing of a case for you, Kakarot." 8 hours, or 4 months later, Goku and Bardock were in the room of spirit and time training hard. Father and son were currently locked in aerial combat, each blocking the other's fist with their other hand and viciously slamming boulder-shattering kicks into each other. After a few seconds, Goku slammed his head into Bardock's heel, combing the attack with a knee to the groin. Bardock lost his concentration for just a second, but that was all the time that Goku needed. The younger Saiyan backed away from his father and rapidly fell to the ground at speeds only assisted flight and high gravity can create. Goku rolled as he reached the ground, using his momentum to springboard across the ground. He charged up a Kamehameha wave, flipped around so he was facing Bardock, and fired the wave. A grin appeared on Bardock's face as he launched an energy wave that met the Kamehameha wave head-on. The two beams clashed, lighting the white dimension like a raging newborn star. For several seconds, father and son engaged in a beam war before Bardock stopped fueling his attack a swerve to the right. Bardock quickly charged up 2 small balls of ki, fired them in quick succession, and then used the fury of the attack to flip over his son's head. In a shocking move that only someone of the duo's bloodline would think of pulling off, Bardock uncoiled his tail from his waist and put Goku into a chokehold with it. The Elder Saiyan then immediately started to machine gun his elbows into Goku's back. With Goku desperately trying to gain some breath by pulling on Bardock's tail, the Elder Saiyan was grinning at his son's predicament. "Come on, Kakarot, you've to do better than this if you want to protect Earth." Bardock slammed the back of his foot between Goku's legs while keeping up his machine gun elbowing. Lesson 13, Kakarot. Payback is always a bitch and you're her boy toy. Goku's vision was starting to blur from lack of oxygen when he went for broke. The teen Saiyan started glowing green as he unleashed a thunder shock surprise from his entire body. Bardock was a tough-as-nails warrior who had gone through 15 planetary purges, death, and survived in hell for almost 18 years. However, even his battle-scared body couldn't handle 500,000 volts of electricity being pumped through it. Bardock tried biting his lips, but in the end let loose a howl of agony. The thunder shock surprise lasted for only a few seconds before Goku let go of the technique because he became unconscious. As Goku fell to the floor, Bardock let out a gasp of smoke. The older Saiyan hoarsely whispered, "Good job, Kakarot." Bardock then crashed onto the ground next to his son, sporting a puffy tail and an afro hairdo courtesy of Goku's attack. An hour later, the two Saiyans woke up with their muscles screaming in pain from the previous 5-hour-long workout. Dead and half-dead father and son crawled back to the apartment complex in the room of spirit and time. Once the apartment, the lower gravity allowed Goku and Bardock to stagger like drunks over to the bathtub, which they quickly fell into. Bardock reached over, turned on a second faucet. This faucet didn't pour water into the tub, Instead it unleashed grayish-green gloppy goo with a stench worse than a week-old carcass in a scorching desert. Slightly green from the smell, Bardock muttered. Remember Kakarot, if you puke, make sure it's out of the tub. Goku turned and glared at his father with his only eye. It wasn't me last time. You shouldn't have had those burritos before that spar last month. They gave you gas that could be classified as biological weapons and caused you to puke on me. Bardock closed his eyes, letting the healing properties of the goo work. With their now customary verbal spar over with, Bardock began to talk. He always did this after the two sparred to exhaustion. Sometimes Bardock talked about Saiyan history, other times he'd tell his son stories from Saiyan lore, and rarely like now Bardock talked about his past. Your mother was one beautiful, first-class self-centered bitch from hell Kakarot. We met at a hospital in Vegeta's capital. I was half dead from a mission as usual and she was there to make sure her trainees were healing up so she could kick the crap out of them again for botching a training exercise. Hey, I can still remember being in the regeneration tank when she came strolling into the medical bay with typical first-class arrogance and such aloofness that she clearly needed to pull her tail out of her ass. Her first words when she spotted me was, "Why by the moon's bloody light is that third-rate jarhead in here?" That wing of the hospital was supposed to be for second-class warriors at the bare minimum. I was placed there because the third-class wing was full. The doctors tried to explain that to her, but she wouldn't hear it and demanded that the doctors throw me into the third-class wing. Naturally, I was pissed at this and started powering up. Her scouter picked it up and she was shocked that I had a power level of 8,000. Not that I blame the bitch since even first-class elites rarely had power levels over 6,000 and she only had a power level of 3,000. To save face after that she decided to take pity on me and let me remain in the regeneration tank. About 3 weeks later, your mother tracked me down because she was in heat and wanted to ensure that she had powerful kid. A little sandstorm fight, some alcohol, a few nights of passion, and then 8 months later your elder brother Raditz was born. Being mixed class, the doctors tested him and found him to have a power level of 73. This meant that he was classified as a first class and publicly recognized as your mother's son. 4 years later, your mom went into heat again, sought me out, and you came around. Since you only had a power level of 2, you became a third class like me and listed as my son. Goku sighed as he listened to his family history. He had suspected that his family was a piece of work, but this was confirmation straight from the horse's mouth. Of course, human concepts like family, aren't important at all in Saiyan culture. Bloodlines were recorded, but not really important except among the upper levels of the first class and the royal family. Why worry about who your relatives were when it was your personal strength that mattered? Saiyan noses were sensitive enough that they could detect how closely two Saiyans were related to one another, so inbreeding wasn't a problem. Bardock then went on to talk about the legendary Leek who had faced off against an entire clan of warriors under the full moon when he had lost his tail and yet still won. Towards the end of the story, Goku fell asleep, causing Bardock to sigh. The elder Saiyan got up, picked up his son, and carried the teen to one of the beds. Once the younger Saiyan was in bed, Bardock gently held his sleeping son's shoulder. "You've done me proud, boy. You somehow managed to become a true Saiyan without giving up that heart of yours, and you found a much more worthy reason to fight than I ever did. I'm proud to be your father, Goku." 6 months later in real time, Bulma was walking down the streets of Papaya Town towards the arena for the 23 Tenkaichi Budokai in a raincoat because of the weather. She quickly spotted Launch and Master Roshi standing by the sign-in desk waiting for the others. "Hey guys, have any of the others arrived yet?" Roshi shook his head and then answered. "Not yet, Bulma, but I say, some powerful people rapidly heading our way. I don't doubt for a moment that it's the rest of the guys and that they'll be here shortly." Bulma nodded her head, grateful to hear that. She then fell someone's hands where they shouldn't be and viciously elbowed Roshi in the face. "Hands off my butt, you old pervert." Suddenly a voice called out, "You'll never change, will you, Master Roshi?" The trio turned their heads to look at the person who called out to Roshi. He was a tall man nearly 6 feet, dressed in blue jeans, a dark almost jade green coat, and had a black t-shirt barely visible under the coat. Thanks to the person's umbrella, the trio couldn't see his face. The unknown person walked closer to the trio and said, "It's good to see you in such good health, Master Roshi. I hope you're competing in the tournament this year. I'm also glad to see that you are doing well, Bulma." Launch. Then, to give everyone a clue who they were talking to, a brown tail uncurled from around the figure's waist and started waving in the air. Immediately the trio called out, "Goku! Is that you?" Goku tilted his umbrella so that everyone could see his face. There was a pair of sunglasses on Goku's face to hide the scar where his right eye should be. However, it was clear as day to the trio that Goku was standing in front of them. As soon as the rain stopped, Goku walked over, gave Launch and Bulma a friendly hug, and then bowed to Roshi. "You never answered my question, Master Roshi. Are you entering the tournament?" Roshi put a hand on Goku's shoulder and answered his fellow master. "I've been debating that issue. After all, the Turtle School has some very impressive students entering with our friends and a master with the returning champion. It almost seems like it's time for me to step down and let you kids take the main stage. But I think I'll have one more go at it for old time's sake." The teenage Saiyan pumped his fist, practically crowed out, "All right. I was hoping I'd get another chance to test myself in the ring against you, Master. Let's go sign up." The Master and Grandmaster of the Turtle School quickly registered themselves for the tournament, causing a bit of a commotion among the monks at the desk. After all, this was the third time in a row that the duo would be fighting in the tournament, and both of them had a championship under their belt. Just after Goku finished signing in, there was a whoosh of air. He turned around and saw 5 familiar figures standing in front of him. Yamcha, Tien, Chiatsu, Krillin and Corin were all standing with grins on their faces. Goku called out, "It's great to see all of you again. Are you all here for the tournament?" Corin, who was the last in line to sign up, quickly nodded his head. "You bet, Goku. I left my new student Upa at the tower in case anyone else manages to climb the tower. Met up with these guys about 10 kilometers north of South City and then we headed straight here." Corin then turned and signed up as a fighter, drawing some odd looks from one of the monks. Not that anyone could blame the monks, since Corin did look more like someone's pet cat than a fighter at first glance. Once everyone was signed up, the gang left for the hotel so that they could rest for tomorrow's tournament. Krillin grinned as he put on his uniform for the tournament. He had a smirk on his face as he showed off the orange turtle GI, saying, "I knew Master Roshi wouldn't let us have our old GIS. So, I had this one made. It's pretty spiffy, wouldn't you say?" Yamcha turned around in a similar GI with a knowing grin. "I know what you mean, Krillin. It looks like we know the same tailor." Goku walked over in the same outfit he had on yesterday, minus the glasses, allowing everyone to see the turtle emblem over his heart on the black t-shirt. The Saiyan had his green jacket draped over one shoulder, allowing part of the turtle emblem that covered the back of the jack to be seen. "Looking good, guys. Those duds really suit you. I'd be in an orange GI myself. But Master Roshi felt that was inappropriate for me to be wearing a student's uniform since I'm officially recognized as a master of the school." "Who knew you could declare someone a master in absentee?" Both Krillin and Yamcha chuckled at their friend's misfortune. Krillin gave Goku a pat on the back and replied, "This is what you get for beating Master Roshi in public, Space Monkey. If you wanted to wear the student's GI, you shouldn't have won the championship last time." The 3 martial artists all had a good laugh at Goku's predicament. Goku stopped laughing when the ceiling fans turned on, changing rooms' air currents and bringing a familiar scent to his nose. He turned to Krillin and Yamcha, saying, "Hey guys, I'm going to check something out. I'll be right back." Goku calmly made his way between the preliminary rings. Luckily, many of the fighters recognized him as the defending champion and respectfully moved out of his way. After all, Goku was the youngest winner in the Tenkaichi Budokai's history and was mainly responsible for killing King Piccolo. Even some of the more arrogant and uncouth fighters felt the need to give Goku some respect. Finally, Goku came and found who he was looking for. "Ox King, why are you here? Is Chi-Chi here too?" The human mountain bent down so that the 10-foot-tall Ox King was eye level with the 6-foot-tall Goku. "Hi there, Goku. I haven't gotten a chance to thank you for getting the Dragon Balls working again." Goku shrugged his shoulders. "Don't worry about it, Ox. I know you'd do the same for me. Now can you tell me where Chi-Chi is?" Ox King frowned and eyes started to water. "Oh Goku, it's terrible. My dear sweet little girl was never the same after she was revived. She apparently inherited some of her great-grandmother Baba's abilities. Unfortunately, these abilities allowed her to remember her time in limbo, and no one found out about it until we read her diary looking for clues. Why? Ox King busted in. To tears at this point, crying all over Goku. Oh Goku, my sweet little girl couldn't take it and killed herself. The Saiyan doubled over like someone had punched him in the gut. Chi-Chi was dead. That couldn't be true. He had check-in on her once a week ever since Kami showed him how to use the viewing fountain until the last 6 months of his training, when he had to focus completely on Piccolo's upcoming attack. She had always looked so happy when he saw her chatting with her ladies-in-waiting or sparring with her father. How could that all be an act? Of course, if she did remember being in Limbo, then it wasn't really that much of a surprise that she had killed herself. Thanks to Kami's lessons, Goku knew that Limbo was a very nasty dimension that existed outside the realms of the afterlife, but was closely connected to Hell. When sorcerers and other dark magic wielders who casted people into Hell, they really sent them to Limbo. It was impossible to leave Limbo straight to the mortal realm, and very dangerous either way to get at Limbo from the afterlife. Members of the Hell Guard were typically tasked with rescuing the poor souls stuck in that realm, earning the damned warriors remissions for their sins. Because of King Piccolo's twisted nature, everyone he or his minions killed automatically was cast into Limbo. Kami had cast a spell as soon as Shenlong revived everyone to blot out those memories as an act of mercy. Eventually, Ox King managed to regain his composure and stood up. Sorry about that, Goku, but Chi-Chi's death has been very hard for me to deal with. Master Rose, I mentioned that you were undergoing some special training because King Piccolo's heir was supposed to be at this tournament. Goku nodded his head and replied, that's correct. I spotted him on my way to see you. Ox King slammed his fists together and grinned. That's the first bit of good news I've heard in a long time, Goku. I want to make that punk pay for what his old man did to my sweet little girl. The preliminaries of the 23 Tenkaichi Budokai was over in the shortest time ever recorded in the tournament's history. Not that this was any real surprise, with Goku and everyone else being in a league of their own compared to the other great fighters of Earth. Goku, Ox King, Roshi, Yamcha, Krillin, Tien, and Corin all made it to the finals. Unfortunately for Chiatsu, he stuck himself in the same bracket as Piccolo. But what can you expect when you mess around with Lady Luck? Once all 8 competitors were confirmed, the announcer brought out the drawing box and had everyone draw for their spot in the main tournament. Goku went first as the defending champion and drew number 1. Piccolo, under the alias of Ma Junior, went next and drew number 8. After that, Yamcha got number 6, Krillin got number 7, Ox King number 4, Tien number 3, Roshi number 2, and Corin number 5. There was then a 5-minute break so that the monks could inform the crowd about the drawing. Oolong muttered in shock when he heard the drawing. Goku and Roshi are going at it in the first match. I thought you were supposed to save the best match for last. Puar nodded her head. Yes, this is going to be quite a matchup. I just hope that Yamcha can give the crowd a fight worthy of following such a match. Bulma pulled out a laptop and set it on the divider ledge. While opening the laptop, she flipped a small camera so that it was facing the arena. The blue-haired genius clicked on a desktop icon that looked like Goku's scouter and grinned. Perfect. Everything's checking out as it should. Launch looked at Bulma, blinking her eyes. Should you be working on your computer when the tournament is about to begin? The young genius grinned and replied, don't worry, Launch. This laptop is equipped with my own version of a scouter. With it, I'll be able to see just how strong everyone is, record their techniques, and be able to see the action when they move too fast for the eye to see. Bulma grinned. Ned as the rest of the gang applauded her accomplishment. Personally, Bulma had done it because her friends had proven that stuff like Ki existed and she wanted to become the leading scientific expert on Ki and other previously believed to be mystical nonsense. A gong rang as the tournament announcer walked onto the arena. The announcer fiddled with his sunglasses and then began to speak. It is my proud honor to welcome all of you to the finals of the 23 Tenkaichi Budokai. The winner of this tournament shall be crowned the strongest under the heavens and will receive a grand prize of 10 million zeni. We started this tournament earlier today with 93 competitors from across the globe. However, only 8 proved to have the strength, speed, skill, and experience to make them worthy of fighting before you. The first match of the tournament is sure to get your blood pumping, as we have the current defending champion and the previous champion facing off against each other. I am speaking of none other than Goku, the youngest champion in the Tenkaichi Budokai's history and the man who ended King Piccolo. Facing off against Goku is his legendary sensei Roshi, known throughout the martial arts world as the Invincible Old Master. Both master and student have fought against each other twice before. Both have won one victory after a close battle. Now they meet as equals, both as Master RS of the Turtle School and as winners of this tournament. Only one can advance, let's see who it shall be. Goku and Roshi walked into the arena, bowed to each other, and then promptly started to attack each other. The two masters were throwing a fury of punches, kicks, and blocks that to most of the viewers the duo's arms and legs were nothing but blurs. Occasionally, one or both of the fighters were slowed down just enough for the viewers to see. An example of this was when Roshi tried to sweep Goku's legs. However, Goku jumped over the attack, wrapped his tail around Roshi's leg, and sent Roshi flying towards the edge with a kick in the back for good luck. About halfway to the edge, Roshi flipped around, put a hand on arena ground, and threw himself back at Goku. Seconds before reaching Goku, Roshi let out a mind-numbing screech. The painful sound broke Goku's guard just enough for Roshi to do a double roundhouse kick, sending Goku into the air. Roshi flew up after Goku and was able to land a few more furious blows before the Saiyan recovered. It quickly became apparent that taking things into the air was a serious mistake on Roshi's part. The old master had obviously put a lot of effort into aerial combat training since he added flight to his impressive list of techniques. However, Goku was far more used to fighting in 3 dimensions and was able to exploit holes in Roshi's defenses that didn't exist on the ground. As each moment of the fight continued onward, Roshi got less and less strikes in and Goku gained more and more direct hits on Roshi. Finally Roshi had enough, and decided to get the fight back where it belonged, on the ground. He instantly used a solar flare and in the split second Goku was distracted. Roshi punched Goku to the ground with both his fists held together. Goku already was recovering from the blow before he touched the arena floor. Roshi quickly decided it was time to unveil a new technique he had been working on. A familiar blue light emana Ted from the old master's cupped hands as he called out, "Shotgun Kamehameha." Goku had seen the familiar glow of a Kamehameha being charged up and felt the corresponding concentration of Roshi's ki. Naturally, his battle instincts immediately had Goku to the typical non-energy intensive method of dealing with such an attack: avoid it. Goku immediately swerved to the left, hoping to make Roshi waste the attack. To the young Saiyan's surprise, Roshi didn't send out a beam, but a barrage of bowling ball-sized blue ki blasts that covered the entire stadium. Smoke quickly blocked Goku and the rest of the stadium from everyone's sight. Up in the air, Roshi was breathing hard from all the energy he had put into the shotgun Kamehameha. It was his newest technique, a Kamehameha that you couldn't escape from and had enough power to take down over a dozen of King Piccolo's minions in a single blow. Of course, Roshi knew that such an attack wouldn't off his favorite student. Goku was just too tough. The only question on Roshi's mind was just how much damage had Goku taken. As soon as the smoke cleared, Roshi gasped out in shock, "What the hell?" Goku was calmly floated a foot above the ruined arena without a scratch on him. He had his arms crossed across his chest and a faint bluish-white glow surrounded his body. The Teen Saiyan flipped around so he was standing on the stadium. Roshi started stammering, "But that was half of my ki reserves." Goku dusted himself off and grinned up at Roshi. "That was a very impressive attack, Master Roshi. I'll defiantly have to remember that one for the future. It's a good thing that Kami taught me that energy shield, or I'd be in serious trouble right now with the level of power I'm currently using." To everyone in the audience's amazement, Roshi started laughing. "Splendid, Goku. I'm thrilled to see how far you've come with your training these past 3 years. You've equaled me in skill, far surpassed me in power, and I couldn't be happier. Are a few more techniques I've created since we went our separate ways. I am looking forward to showing them to you. However, I feel that this is not the appropriate place and that it is time I stop delaying the inevitable. Good luck to you, Goku, in your next match." With that, Roshi lowered himself until his feet touched the grass. The old master then walked back to the fighters' waiting room as the audience slowly began a thunderous applause. Once the audience's enthusiasm from the last match calmed down, the announcer began again. It seems impossible that anything could match the Clash between Titans that we just witnessed here today. However, I know for a fact that we have 6 more fighters eager to show that they are better than our 2 competing champions here today. Our next match features Tien versus the Ox King. Tien is a returning semi-finalist who was only defeated last time after a heated battle with Roshi, who was then fighting under the alias of Jackie Chun. Opposing him is Ox King, the oldest living disciple of Master Roshi, who trained with Gohan's son, the winner of the 17th Tenkaichi Budokai. Let us see now who will emerge triumphant on this scarred battleground. The 2 competitors circled around each other looking for openings. Ox King made the first move and went in to put Tien into a grapple hold. The 3-eyed warrior barely managed to escape the hold. Oop got a backhanded fist in his gut for the trouble. Everyone heard a sickening crunch as the Bovine King's attack broke one of Tien's ribs. Tien backed away from Ox King, clutching his side with one hand and his face wincing from the pain. Fighting back the pain, Tien spoke to Ox King. "That's quite a punch you pack. I didn't expect you to have that much strength." Ox King gave Tien a compassionate glance and replied, "I never was very fast for martial artists of our caliber. So, I trained my strength to such a point that I would only need 1 or 2 hits to win. Surrender the match, Tien, so that you can have the rib treated." Tien shook his head. "I don't think so. Goku told me that we were about equal in power at the last tournament. I fully intend to show him that we are still equal, and that means I have to get past you." Tien stretched out his left arm with his hand positioned so that his fingers were making half of a triangle. A yellow sphere of energy somewhere between a basketball and a beach ball in size formed around Tien's hand. "I'll beat you with whatever it takes, Ox King. Prepare yourself to face my ultimate technique, Tri-Beam." A massive orange-yellow beam shot out from Tien's hand and flew straight at Ox King. Most fighters would have been a little nervous at such a powerful attack barreling straight towards them. However, Ox King simply slammed his feet into the ground and held his hands out in front of himself. The massive king caught the attack with his hands and began to push back. Tien and Ox King soon found themselves locked in an odd game of reverse tug-of-war. Tien was trying his best to plow Ox King out of the stadium. At the same time, Ox King was trying his best to stand his ground and ride out Tien's attack. Seconds seemed to stretch into eternity as the 2 warriors tried to prove their resolve. But, less than 10 seconds after Ox King started to block Tien's tri-beam, his feet started to buckle. Once that happened, the mountain-like warrior sank his footing and was carried out of the arena and crashed into a nearby wall. The Triclops quickly ended his attack and fell to his knees panting. "Unbelievable, how could he be so strong? I had to put more energy into that attack than Roshi did when he tried to kill King Piccolo. It's a good thing that the semi-finals aren't until tomorrow, or I'd have to forfeit." An hour break was called so the audience could have some lunch and the monks could do some hasty repairs on the ring. When the hour was over, the ring still looked like a war was fought on it, but that wasn't a big deal to the monks. They figured that the ring was going to be toast by the end of the tournament, given whom the contestants were, and that everything was okay as long as the ring was semi-level. Yamcha and Corin walked into the ring as the announcer introduced them. Yamcha is a tried and true veteran of the Tenkaichi Budokai. While he has never made it to the semi-finals, no one can doubt his abilities as a fighter, and this tournament could be the charm for him. Facing off against him is Corin, a near-legendary hermit from the Great Southern Peninsula, where he is known for his knowledge of martial arts and mystical lore. Will youth beat wisdom? Let's find out. The former bandit was have a hard time stopping himself from busting out laughing. Come on, his opponent was a freaking cat. Yamcha figured he could just pick Corin up by the tail and drop him out of the ring. Unfortunately for Yamcha, he never saw Corin in action since he was dead at the time and hadn't bothered to climb Corin's toe. Since he was stronger than Goku was after training under Corin. Corin gave Yamcha a very sour glare. You're a very slow learner, aren't you, Yamcha? Any decent fighter knows that you are not to judge your opponent by their looks. Besides, It's quite impossible for you to pick me up by the tail and drop me out of the ring. However, I don't mind teaching you to be my new scratching post." Yamcha inked his eyes for a few seconds and then screamed, "Hey! Stop making fun of me. I'll show you who's boss." With that, Yamcha lashed out with a lightning fast punch straight to Corin's face. Even though Yamcha's punch was faster than anyone in the audience could see, it simply went through an afterimage. Corin now was standing a foot away from Yamcha's fist with a grin on his face and waving a paw. "You missed me." Yamcha tried again only to hit another afterimage and Corin ended up a foot in front of the former bandit's fist. "You stopped too short on that last punch there. Might I recommend that you get some glasses?" Yamcha continued to try and hit Corin with punches and then added in a few kicks. But, each time Corin calmly evaded Yamcha's strike and gave a witty comeback. "Are you trying to do an interpretive dance? Just because an afterimage looks like me doesn't mean it is me. Why do I get the impression that you're the Dobie of the turtle school? Are you even trying to hit me, Yamcha?" Finally Yamcha got so fed up that he backed away from Corin. "I'm getting sick and tired of you making fun of me just because I happened to be dead when all of you took out King Piccolo. Let me show you my new ultimate technique that I invented myself, Spirit Ball Attack." A baseball-sized key orb formed above Yamcha's hand and then he threw it at Corin. The feline master dogged Yamcha's attack and then sweat dropped. "Yamcha, did you lose your marital arts skills while in the land of the dead? A small key blast isn't really an ultimate attack, especially when you know the Kamehameha wave." Corin yelled out in surprise as the spirit ball slammed into his back sending him flying straight into Yamcha's waiting kick. Corin quickly connected with Yamcha's foot and was sent flying across the ring. Yamcha quickly powered up a Kamehameha wave and launched it at Corin. The Kamehameha hit Corin straight in the face carrying him out of the ring and straight towards the crowd barrier. Yamcha had a grin on his face and yelled out, "Oh yeah, save the trash talking for your litter box you old cat." Less than a meter from the crowd wall, Corin stopped being carried by the Kamehameha wave shocking Yamcha and the viewers. Those in the audience right behind Corin saw the white cat floating in the air holding the Kamehameha wave with his left paw. Corin brought his right paw up while still holding Yamcha's attack. The middle claw on his paw started to glow and then Corin rapidly brought his right paw down in a slashing motion. A violet crescent of ki as long as Corin's slash appeared and cut the Kamehameha wave in two. Yamcha quickly disengaged his attack and dove to the side as Corin's attack finished cutting through the Kamehameha. The attack would have continued towards the protective wall for the fighters. But Corin snapped his fingers causing his attack to evaporate. Corin grinned and replied, "Neko slash. It's a prime example of using the smallest amount of effort needed to achieve the greatest effect. Still, I must commend you for a very well thought strategy. Against a weaker opponent such a combo would have undoubtedly given you the match, Yamcha." If there was one thing that irked Yamcha more than being the butt of a joke, it was having his opponent lecture him. Seriously, he was a third-time fighter in this tournament possessing strength and skill the likes of which only a handful of people had. Yamcha powered up another spirit ball and launched it at Corin planning on driving the cat out of bounds. Corin simply spun around and hit the spirit ball with his tail like a batter in a baseball game. The spirit ball went careening back to Yamcha hitting him between the legs. Naturally, Yamcha let out a blood-curdling scream as he clutched his family jewels and the arena floor twitching in agony. As Yamcha laid crying and whimpering, a monk ran up to the announcer and whispered in his ear. The announcer nodded his head and then addressed the audience. "Attention folks, I have just received word from the judges panel. They've ruled that Corin is not disqualified for hitting Yamcha below the belt since he deflected Yamcha's attack back at Yamcha. Therefore, Yamcha has until the count of 10 to return to his feet or he will be disqualified." The announcer began to count, taking just a split second longer with each number than normal out of sympathy. Who couldn't sympathize with a man who had his family jewels attacked by a 300-mile-an-hour ki attack? Sadly for Yamcha, he was still whimpering on his back in pain when the count was finished, giving Corin the match. Krillin was meditating in the waiting area preparing himself for his next match. In all honesty, Krillin didn't really expect to win against Junior since his opponent was King Piccolo's heir. The bald fighter was a lot stronger than when he had faced King Piccolo 3 years ago, but that didn't give him any assurance with his chances. In fact, the completely bored look on Piccolo's face while watching the last 3 matches had Krillin worried. Just how powerful was Piccolo? While walking into the ring, Krillin completely drowned out the announcer's voice and focused on his self-made mission. The former monk had about a snowball's chance in hell of winning this match, and he was man enough to admit it. However, that didn't mean he was about to throw in the towel. It was still possible for Krillin to score a victory even if he lost. As soon as the match started, Krillin raced towards Piccolo, ducked under the Namekian's clawed swipe, and punched Piccolo in the elbow. Krillin wasn't able to put much power behind the punch, but he did get away from Piccolo without getting hit. The bald fighter immediately turned around and came at Piccolo again. This time he slid right under his green opponent's legs and hit just under the Namek's knees at the side. Attacking below the belt wasn't allowed in the tournament, but there was a provision allowing one to hit an opponent below the knees. Back in the fighter's waiting area, the Dragon Ball gang was watching the match with puzzled looks. Yamcha spoke up. "What's up with Krillin? That's not his normal style that he's using." The former bandit paused for a second to watch Krillin tap Piccolo's arm like he was trying to hit a pressure point. Why does it look like Krillin's pulling his punches while he's making it look like he's trying? How does he expect to win his match when he's fooling around like this? Corin frowned and then answered Yamcha. "It's because Krillin doesn't expect to win his match. That style he's using is an imitation of my style with just enough twists put in that it doesn't give away my style." Shortly thereafter, Krillin changed his stance and started attacking with a fury of kicks and lightning-fast punches. Once again, Piccolo was easily able to soak up the damage because Krillin barely put any effort behind the blows. No longer was the bald fighter running away from Piccolo's attacks, but instead he was dodging them by swerving away from Piccolo's punches and kicks. Krillin was a little too slow on one dodge, receiving a very nasty kick to his arm. Had Krillin been a normal human fighter, the force of Piccolo's kick would have shattered the bones in his arm. Fortunately, the bald fighter's training allowed him to soak up the kick with only a grunt of annoyance before retaliating with a jab. In the fighting peanut gallery, Tien's eyes lit up like a light bulb had been turned on in his head. That's the basic crane style. Chiatsu and I have our own variations like Krillin is currently using. But it's undeniable that he's currently fighting with the crane style as he base. Goku's eyes widen in realization. Krillin's testing Piccolo. All his actions thrug out the match haven't been to win the fight or wear Piccolo down, but allow us to observe Piccolo's fighting style. The reason he's using those styles is to let us see how Piccolo reacts to our methods of fighting. He started with Corin since he's the next person that has to fight Piccolo. The crane style was probably chosen because Tien is the only other possible fighter left in the tournament F. Acing Piccolo that doesn't use the turtle style, Krillin's probably going to switch to the basic turtle style any minute. Just as Goku predicted, Krillin switched to the turtle style by blocking an ATTEMPT by Piccolo to swipe Krillin's face with the Namekian's claws. Krillin landed a token blow to Piccolo's chest and then immediately backed away. Once again, Krillin tested Piccolo by performing an exhibition of the basic turtle style. Several minutes passed as the audience cheered Krillin and Junior on. As far as everyone in the audience, minus the non-combat members of the Dragon Ball gang, were concerned, this was an epic match that demonstrated a wide breadth of martial arts moves. Finally, 15 minutes after the match started, Krillin called out to the announcer, "Okay, I've had enough. Give the match to Junior here." With that said, Krillin stated, walking towards the edge. Piccolo stared at Krillin in shock. Just as Krillin reached the steeps, he called out, "What the hell gives, little man? You never fought me seriously during our match. I know you have a lot more power than you displayed, so why the hell didn't you fight to your fullest?" Krillin stepped onto the steps and out of the ring, officially making him disqualified. He then grinned and answered Piccolo, "It's quite simple really. I already knew that you were too strong for me to win against. You've got to be holding back at least half if not more of your strength at the moment. However, winning can sometimes simply be the next step you take towards defeat." Since the semifinals and the finals were being held tomorrow, the Dragon Ball gang had retired to the hotel to relax for the evening. Tien had been given a senzu bean to repair his rib. Currently, the gang was chilling in Goku's champion suite that The hotel had upgraded him to and talking about their missing member. Oolong popped the top of his beer and said, "Such a shame about Chi-Chi. Hey Goku, do you think you could convince Cammy to hand over the dragon radar so we can wish her back to life? Only this time, we could wish that she doesn't remember her time of being dead." Everyone turned to look at Goku, who was lying on the couch with a cold one in his hand and a frown on his face. "Sorry Oolong, but it wouldn't do us any good. Just reviving one person isn't a good enough reason to merit Cammy handing out the dragon radar, no matter how important that person is to us. Besides, Chi-Chi has already been revived once by Shenlong. The eternal dragon cannot revive her again. It's a restriction on his powers that Cammy put on so that Shenlong could revive vast multitudes of people at a time. Remember, it was originally expected that people would take years, more often than not decades, just to collect all the Dragon Balls once. Considering that it would take the same amount of time to collect the Dragon Balls again, it was a reasonable assumption at the time that the same wish wouldn't be made twice. Not that it's comforting to know, but those are the facts. Suddenly, Goku's senses started going haywire as a new presence suddenly appeared in the room. The other fighters sensed the new presence too and tried to find the source. Very quickly, every fighter's gaze locked onto Roshi. Krillin was the first to speak. "All right buddy, who are you and what have you done to Master Roshi?" A deep, but wise and friendly, chuckle escaped Roshi's mouth. "Very perceptive of you, young Krillin. You and my protege's other friends have progressed very far on your own." Goku's eyes lit up and he blurted out, "Cammy, is that you?" Roshi nodded his head and replied, "Yes, it is me Goku. I'm overshadowing Roshi at the moment so that I can talk to all of you without certain individuals noticing. For the rest, you let me introduce myself. I am Cammy, God of Earth. Do not worry about your friend Roshi. While I am overshadowing him, his consciousness is enjoying a pleasant dream to his sensibilities. I am puzzled why his dream would feature Bulma and Launch wearing coconuts and grass skirts." Quickly trying to keep the girls' tempers down, Tien asked, "Sir, why have you come here?" Cammy turned to face Tien and gave him a grandfatherly smile. "I am here, my child, because the fate of the world could hang in the balance of this tournament. Ma Junior, or Piccolo as he has taken to calling himself, is a dangerous threat for the safety of everyone on this planet. However, he is also a threat that can be diverted. At the moment, his entire focus is on avenging his father by killing Goku. Should he accomplish his goal, I have no doubts that he will sink to the levels of depravity that his father fell in, plunging this planet into darkness. At the same time, he will not attack any weakling mortals, as he sees humans until Goku is defeated. Therefore, it is imperative that Goku beat him in the finals since his power far outstrips yours, Corin. I therefore came to ask you, Tien, to forfeit your match tomorrow with Goku." Tien stared at Cammy in shock. "But sir, why can't I fight Goku? Don't I deserve the chance to fight against Piccolo?" Goku quickly jumped in. "It's not fair to Tien to demand he forfeit his match, Cammy. How can I say I've won a match if it's been rigged?" Quote, Cammy sent his protege a withering glare. "Control your Saiyan battle lust, Goku. Now is not the time for you to play around with Tien. You and I both know that. You can overpower Tien when using just 15% of your power. 15% which you didn't even use against Master Roshi thanks to that 200-kilo jacket you wore. If Piccolo was still at the level he was 6 months ago before he used the Dragon Balls, I wouldn't have interfered since Tien and Corin both had reasonable chances against Piccolo then. But under current circumstances you are the only nay on this planet with the power to take down Piccolo. Having Tien throw his match allows you to remain rested while Piccolo will no doubt be worn down by Corin. Tien also has the perfect alibi with the cracked rib he got from the Ox King, which was verified by the monks before he received a Senzu bean. He can easily state that he cannot fight because of his rib and no one would question it. Once Piccolo is defeated, you and Tien can fight Goku. But for now, you must focus on the big picture like young Krillin did. Remember, ego and personal desires have no place when it comes to protecting people's lives." Tien stood shocked as he listened to Cammy lecture Goku. The three-eyed man glanced to Goku, then to the possessed Roshi, and finally his eyes drifted over to Krillin. Tien's hands balled. into fists as he prepared himself to do one of the hardest things he ever had to do. Alright Cammy, I'll forfeit the match. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.